Stay tuned for more on IndyCar Radio.
A white flag to Tom Sneva with a 10-second lead. Starts his last 2.5 miles.
Sneva, age 34, from Spokane, Washington, on his way to his first 500-mile victory, Doug.
And the fans on their feet in turn number 2, waving their hats, waving their scarves, whatever they've got, sending him up the backstretch. Right here, they're doing the same thing, everyone.
From Barber Motorsports Park, it's time for the Indy Lights, presented by Cooper Tires, on the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
Bright and early, good morning, race fans, here on a race day Sunday in Birmingham, Alabama. Thanks for getting up with us here as we are set to go qualifying for race number 2 for the Indy Lights Series, presented by Cooper Tires on the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. Anders Krohn, our driver analyst, joins us here in the booth. Anders, good morning to you. Bright and early for these Indy Lights drivers to get back out on the racetrack as we're set to go qualifying. Race 1 yesterday. What a performance by Pato O'Ward, grabbing the lead early. And I wouldn't say not looking back, because Colton Herta was within striking distance. But, boy, what a perfect run for the young driver from Mexico.
Yeah, top of the morning to you, Nick Yeoman. Excited to be here today. And obviously weather on the horizon, so all these drivers have taken to the track. And yesterday, yeah, that was mighty impressive what Pato O'Ward there. Great start for him, and then just such an aggressive move into that turn 5 brake zone on the opening lap. Completely caught Colton Herta by surprise. And conditions this morning pretty tricky, actually. It's a lot colder. The air is a lot more dense, a lot more humid than it was yesterday, and that means more downforce. But I also think that the tires are going to take a little bit longer to come up to temp than they did yesterday. So tricky conditions this morning, and I think everyone's going to want to get out here and get as many laps in as possible.
For more on those conditions we welcome in Dave First, who's on pit lane here for Indy Lights qualifying.
Absolutely. Top of the morning to you guys, and for all those listening to us on IndyCar.com. Air temperature 61 degrees, so way down from what we've been experiencing the last couple of days, as Alfonso Celis, the rookie, has already spun during this qualifying session. But as mentioned, thick cloud cover today. Track temperature at 66 degrees. Humidity level, Anders, you're right on about that. Way up from what we've experienced the last couple of days. A good stiff breeze coming out of the southwest. I looked at the radar. No rain in our immediate area, at least for now. Most of it is west out in the Mississippi. Nothing has yet hit the state line. So I think we're going to be dry for this qualifying session. Obviously, we do expect that to change, though, through the course of the day here at still beautiful Barber Motorsports Park. For more on the conditions and what's happening here in this qualifying session, further down pit road, and Rob Howden.
Good morning, Dave. Just to give you a little update here of what's happening with Alfonso Celis, as you had mentioned, a spin here on the opening lap. As I made a big walk up and down the paddock here, having a look at the tires that have been laid out, all but one driver coming onto the track here for this first half of this session on sticker Cooper tires. That was Alfonso Celis. So just an issue, of course, with him not giving these tires enough time to come up to temperature. We've talked a little bit about how Celis is having to kind of transition from driving that Formula V8 car, the carbon brakes versus the steel brakes, the different stiffer sidewall on the Cooper tires. He does actually have 2 full sets of Coopers here ready to go. That's why he was able to go out on a fresh set to start. So issues, of course, when you get out there cold, as Anders had mentioned, the downforce differences because of the humidity. But Anders Krohn, just an issue with a young driver learning these tires and going out in cold temperatures on brand new rubber.
Yeah, and obviously for anyone that has a view of the track at the moment, it may look strange to go off track, on a simple straightaway, but it's actually not that simple. As you come out of turn 5 and turn 6, there's actually a big crest of the hill there, and with cold tires with all that 450 Mazda turbocharged horsepower, if you just light the wheels up as you crest that hill, that can then start a tank slapper, and that's more than likely what happened to Alfonso Celis, is that he came over that hill, just had a little bit too much wheel spin, and exactly to your point, Rob Howden, about the differences of cars that he's driven from the Formula V8 car, which had Michelin tires, but also a naturally naturally aspirated V8 engine, which the power delivery is a lot more linear, whereas this with the turbocharged, once it kicks in, it really kicks, and on cold tires, that can be difficult to handle.
I got 4 members of the AMR IndyCar safety team there looking at that race car. Alfonso Celis hopped out of that Mazda A-OK, and honestly, Anders, from the shots that we have seen, we haven't seen a replay of exactly what happened, but it doesn't look like he hit anything other than maybe one of the Honda banners and signs that they've got up into the grass just to the left of the racetrack. That car looks relatively okay, but certainly Alfonso Celis, the rookie driver, felt something that warranted getting out of that race car.
Yeah, exactly. And there is one of those banners missing off the track, so he must have hit something. But then there's also a little yellow streak right behind his gearbox. So not to place all blame on him before we've seen a replay, it could very well be that something like a gearbox had seized up, and that'll certainly make the car spin out in an instant. So until we see a replay, I certainly don't want to make a judgment on it, but very peculiar spot to go off, but again, wouldn't be surprised if that's caused by that crest of the hill.
So the AMR safety crew has that number 7 car for Juncos Racing on a hook, and they will take it behind the wall. Because of the early red flag, nobody has laid down a quick lap as of yet. This was, again, on Alfonso Celis' first lap out on the racetrack. Thought he did a fairly decent job yesterday, Anders, for his first race. He completed all the laps, never fell so far behind that the leaders were catching him. And as a rookie driver, that's really all you can ask stepping into these cars for the first time.
And it's just so difficult. I remember a few years ago he actually tested a Pro Mazda car here at Barber Motorsports Park, but since then he's never seen the place. And so I think just learning this track in its own right is difficult. But the Indy Lights car is so difficult to drive because it's got so much power and it moves around so much relatively compared to what other open-wheel cars he's driven in the past. So it's definitely going to be a bit of a transition for him because the Formula V8 that he's driven in the past is so stuck to the ground that there's almost no movement whatsoever. So I think readjusting his brain to a car that does move around a little bit more is going to take some time for him. And shame to see him out, and this would have been valuable experience for him.
And he's certainly a very talented driver. I mean, was a test driver for Sahara Force India in Formula One, so certainly there's a lot of talent there. But you bring up a good point. The feel of the racetrack, it doesn't matter how well you know a race car. I would assume coming to a racetrack for the first time that you've never been at, that has to be the most daunting challenge of all.
Oh, it's super difficult because you're learning two things. You're learning the car and the track, and that's always a very, very difficult thing.
Let's hear from the rookie driver who is out of his car and on pit lane, standing by with Rob Howden.
I have Alfonso Celis down here. You and I talked about this a couple of days ago. You're just getting used to this car, whether it's the brakes, the stiffer sidewall, and the Cooper tires, but primarily, and of course, in a colder morning like this on brand new tires, when the turbo starts to spool up, you get that hit of power. Is that what caught you out?
Yeah, unfortunately, in cold tires, I mean, I just went out and the turbo hit when I was short shifting. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. But
how about yesterday? You were able to finish the entire race. You get your first Indy Lights event in the books. Do you feel good after yesterday?
Yeah, definitely. It was something I needed to do, you know, finish a race, have it under my belt, and then from then on gaining experience and looking forward to keep improving.
Probably going to have some rain for the afternoon and for the race. So does that make you excited? Do you like racing in the rain?
Yeah, I like the rain. As long as I stay on track.
Have fun this afternoon.
Thanks.
Alfonso Celis there, Nick Yeoman again. Just some issues here with that turbo. Anders had given a really good description of it. And again, Alfonso's been very honest with the fact that he's just getting used to the way this Mazda power plant delivers its power.
Yep, when it kicks in on these cold tires, that these cars can be handfuls, no doubt about it. So, again, that car being taken off of the racetrack as we speak here at Barber Motorsports Park. So the other 7 drivers will get a chance to turn some laps. Problem is, Anders, is despite a red flag, clock doesn't stop in Indy Lights qualifying. So now all of a sudden, still plenty of time, 21 minutes as of right now, left on the clock for these drivers to turn laps. That's plenty. But in terms of these colder conditions, that does shrink the amount of time that you can make adjustments and tweak on those cars.
And I really think that falls into the favor of Pato O'Ward. If you remember the qualifying yesterday, on his first 2 laps, he was 0.6 ahead of P2. So, I mean, absolute animal on opening laps. So I think that's really going to benefit him here in this qualifying session, as we see some issues with Alfonso Celis' car. Looks like they've had to lower that again from the beam, so it'll be a few more minutes till we get going here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's only about 15 minutes to go by the time we get back to green here. And then the real question is, do these drivers and teams opt for just one set of tires, or do they opt for two sets of tires? I think he's going to be right in the middle there of, do you get to the peak of set one on your tires, or do you just do a shorter run on set one, hoping that you're going to maximize the set two? So I think we might see some strategy come into play here.
We're just getting started here at Barber Motorsports Park. If you're at the track, boy, a full day of action. You've got Porsche GT3 racing coming up later today. Pro Mazda has another race. The Indy Lights series, of course, has their second race, and then everything leading up to the main event of the afternoon, the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama. Let's talk a little bit about that while we've got some time. Yesterday, Team Penske flexing some muscle. Will Power had the pole, looking for his 51st career pole, and then all of a sudden, Captain America, Joseph Newgarden, who certainly has this place figured out, a former Indy Lights champion, snuck right up there and stole that pole away from him.
He did, and I think the only big surprise from qualifying yesterday was the fact that Simon Pagenaud didn't make it into the Fast Six, so clearly some issues for him. But yeah, I think Team Penske today, if it's a normal race, and I feel like we've said this in the first three race weekends of the year, and we haven't seen a normal race on paper yet, they should be very, very difficult to beat. But then look at Sebastian Bourdais. I mean, less than a tenth away from pole position, and this historically is not a track where Dale Coyne Racing have been that strong, but they've really turned up the wick here. Very, very impressive to see. James Hinchcliffe in the Fast Six after a difficult test here. That's going to be interesting. And finally, Ryan Hunter-Reay with a trouble-free weekend so far in the Fast Six, qualified in the top five. So great to see him there as well. But Team Penske, that's going to be a powerful duo at the front there.
I heard Sebastian Bourdais mention yesterday he wasn't even sure that they'd get out of the first round. So for them to make that big of a jump, that's huge. And we know Sebastian's got a lot of experience running in the rain. How about Marco Andretti qualifying 7th yesterday? That's a big improvement. Marco's always said, man, if I can just hit it on Saturdays, qualify a little bit better for these races, he feels like he can be competitive. That's a big step for him. First time that he made it out of the first round here since 2014.
And he's doing just that. He's always super quick in the first practice session. I think he's got so much raw talent that he always gets at the speed so quickly. But I think what he's struggled with in the past is refining his driving along with the setup developing during the course of the weekend. But he's clearly figured something out this weekend, because he's made strides, and to be 7th on the grid, that's great for him, and he can definitely race from there. And if it rains, I think it's going to change a lot of things for obvious reasons, both setup-wise and driving-wise, and it's going to be a very unpredictable race.
Been a nice weekend for Michael Andretti's organization altogether. All 4 of their cars made it out of the first round. Zach Veach caught a nice break. He's a little under the weather with that accident with Tony Kanaan. It got him into the second round. As you mentioned, Ryan Hunter-Reay made it to the Fast Six, as did Marco Andretti and Alexander Rossi. And then, of course, in terms of Indy Lights, Michael Andretti's organization has already taken home a trophy with Pato Award winning. So as the engines refire here in Indy Lights, we're set to go qualifying again. So far, Michael Andretti's got a lot to smile about.
He does indeed, yeah. Barber, Alabama has been good for him so far this weekend, and they put so much effort into this offseason with the new aero kits on the IndyCar side of things, and obviously Indy Lights getting Colton Herta back in the car, Ryan Norman back, Dalton Kellett back, and then the addition of Pato Award.
So the Alfonso Celis Mazda for Juncos Racing has finally been taking off of the racetrack. Sounded like we had a bit of an issue with the wrecker getting that car off the track. Now it's been removed. And Dave, first, these drivers aren't wasting any time now getting out of the racetrack with just 17 minutes now to turn laps here in qualifying.
It's going to be interesting to see just how many laps they're able to turn here in the remaining minutes of this qualifying session. Also interesting to note who has what tires on right now. Most everyone having scuffed Cooper tires. In fact, Dalton Kellett just put on a fresher set of scuffed tires that are basically stickers. They only had a couple laps on them. Victor Franzoni went back out on sticker Cooper tires, as did, I believe that was Colton Herta as well. So anyway, a couple guys out there on stickers, most everyone else on the scuffed Coopers today.
Let's go to Rob Howden a little bit further down pit lane.
Yeah, Nick, I think this stoppage, this early red, is going to make things very interesting in terms of how they decide to come in here and use these tires. As I had said off the top of the session, everyone essentially with the couple sets of fresh tires sitting here ready to go. Celis not being able to use his. And interestingly, I wondered, as Celis came onto the track, as we always talk about the fact that the Lights drivers get 4 sets of new fresh tires for the weekend, plus that one carryover set that they bring from the event before. Thinking about the Indianapolis event, the IndyCar Grand Prix that the Indy Lights drivers will be at in early May, I was wondering whether or not Alfonso Celis would be able to carry over a fresh set, because there's a fresh set sitting here, and he's not going to need to use them if we go rain this afternoon. I talked to technical director for Indy Lights, Craig Brooks, and he said no. He said, what we do is you have to have an out lap and one timed lap to be able to have those tires you can classify as carryover. So he had a half a lap on the set of tires, not going to be able to use it. Day first, more happening at the top of the grid.
Yeah, just for those of you scoring at home, sticker tires for Ryan Norman and Andretti Autosport, Victor Franzoni as well here as we get back underway at Barber Motorsports Park.
How about that, Anders? Our lap times are blistering quick because the drivers crossed the timing line and then got the red flag. We had some 10.5-minute laps there. Those aren't going to hold, I don't believe.
I think I could do that on my bicycle. Or on my unicycle. No, yeah, exactly. But coming up to complete our first flying laps here, I see Pato Ward heading into turn 12 and 13. Be interesting to see what he can do on his first flyer and see if he again has that big advantage. So 1:16.6 on his first flyer, and Colton Herta coming up to his first. Let's see what the time delta is there. 0.6 yet again. Pato Ward 0.6 ahead of Colton Herta on his first flyer. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, of course, he has a major advantage. He was the first car off of pit lane, but still, you're not lying. That is an awful quick lap for the first one on cold tires here as Pato Ward at P1 at 1:16.605. He won the race yesterday. Didn't start from pole. It was Colton Herta who grabbed the pole position for yesterday's race, and Pato Ward did a nice job with all the chaos behind him on that opening lap of taking advantage of that Charlotte's Web turn 5 to grab the lead.
He did, but then Colton Herta pressured him so much during the middle part of that race, and it looked like he was going to lose it at some point because he was locking up tires. He was sliding all over the place, and I thought he'd completely destroyed his rear tires, and somehow in the latter part of the race he was able to get those tires back to himself and win that race. But that was some intense action and a great race in my opinion.
Back to pit lane and Rob Howden.
Yeah, question, of course, for Anders as well. Anders had a chance to talk, actually, with Brian Herta, Colton's father, just before we started this session. Just asked him how happy he was with the way that Colton pushed yesterday, and he was thrilled with it. I asked him as well about push to pass. He was obviously all over Pato Ward, many of times coming out of that Alabama roller coaster, trying to get that run down to turn number 5. And Brian just said the straightaways here are just not long enough. And the way this track is laid out, and Anders, you can speak to this, these long, sweeping, high-speed corners, when you get in behind that driver in front, you're going to get that aero wash where the car starts to push out. You don't have that air on top of the front wing. The car pushes away. Brian said pretty much the push to pass, the extra horsepower they get for that run down to turn number 5, really is only enough to counteract or equate the aero push. It gets you back to the rear wing, but it's not enough to get you past.
Yeah, and that's a very, very good point and a valid one at that. And I think probably the most powerful reason for using push to pass here when you're in second position or trying to chase someone down is the fact that you stress the guy ahead of you so much by filling their rear view mirrors, moving right, moving left, just trying to do everything you can to stress him out. And it almost worked on Pato Ward yesterday because he was making some serious mistakes. So you're exactly right, probably not enough to get the job done overtaking wise, but it's certainly enough to stress the guy ahead of you.
Day first has been a disjointed qualifying session for sure with the early red flag, but with 12.5 minutes, already starting to see some drivers hit pit lane, correct?
That was the sound of Colton Herta taking off. A quick pit stop for him as they've laid out and put on some sticker Cooper tires for that Yankee Blue machine for Colton Herta. Santi Urrutia's guy has also laid out some sticker Coopers here this morning.
Seeing some quick laps being laid down. Pato Ward laid down a 1:14.373 that moved him to the top of the charts. He took that car to pit lane. And just then, Mr. Hard Luck, Aaron Telitz, jumps to the top of timing and scoring with a 1:14.208. Rob Howden, you're seeing a lot of those drivers, including Aaron Telitz, pull that red Mazda into pit lane.
Yeah, Nick, both of the Bilardi drivers, they've got tires laid out. They've brought Aaron Telitz in here, as you said, goes to the top of the charts. You heard the interview that I had with him after the incident in race number 1. He knows it's all about winning races right now. He has to win every race. He's got to get fast laps. He still is focused on trying to win this Indy Lights championship, but he knows how deeper that hole was dug yesterday. Pato O'Ward also into pit lane as well. I believe Dave first with Pato.
Sticker Coopers for Pato O'Ward, yesterday's runaway winner in race number 1. So things are picking up down here with basically 12 minutes remaining in this qualifying session.
Yeah, Dave, no changes here as well for Aaron Telitz. I expected maybe a minor adjustment, but they're just going to put the new Cooper tires on. That will be it. No adjustments at all to the race car. P1 right now for Aaron Telitz.
Anders, as broadcasters, you want to stay neutral. You don't want to root for anybody. That's kind of the name of the game. But it's going to be hard for all of us not to hope that Aaron Telitz has a good day. Let's detail this start to the season. He wins the pole for race 1 at St. Petersburg, has a problem in qualifying, hits the wall, doesn't even get to start race 1. Race 2, gets caught up in a first lap accident. Race 3 of the season, yesterday here at Birmingham, gets caught up in a first-lap accident. That young man has not completed a lap in race competition yet in 2018. Just a heartbreak city for Aaron Telitz.
And it's just crazy to think when you look at his track record in the Mazda Road to Indy, outside of a crash in the 2014 USF 2000 Championship in the streets of St. Petersburg, he hasn't had a crash on the Mazda Road to Indy. And then he comes in this year, is the quickest guy in every practice session, basically going into the season, and then has that horrible start. So I think I was actually talking to Brian Bilardi a little bit earlier this season, and this is exactly the type of team you want around yourself, because Brian is just full of support. He is just so supportive of his driver and just says, hey, we just need to get it turned around and then he'll be fine and just win as many races as we can. But so easy as a driver to get down on yourself and start doubting everything, even though these things are out of your control. So easy to still get down on yourself and lose that momentum. So it's going to be crucial here today for him to have a trouble-free qualifying, trouble-free race to rebound.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. I mean, Brian Bilardi is a guy who played in the NFL, has coached football for many years. That's exactly the type of guy that you want. All the football coaches I ever had, that when I needed that kick in the butt, they were the ones to give it to you. And again, it's not that Aaron Telitz has made mistakes and that much of this is on him, but when you get down on yourselves, to have a coach like Brian Bilardi to motivate it, and I'm sure up and down those crew guys, they're the ones that had to put a car together after the accident at St. Petersburg. They've had to work long hours to fix these cars. I would think that entire organization, there's a thin line between getting too frustrated to find those results and making sure that you're pushing forward.
And undoubtedly, one of the reasons why the crew is so behind Aaron Telitz is just because of the person that he is.
Sure.
He just motivates everyone around him and is such a nice guy all around and obviously crazy talented.
New P1, Rob Howden, and he's sitting on pit lane in front of you.
Yeah, Victor Franzoni bringing the Soul Red Mazda number 23 into pit lane here. Of course, the Pro Mazda champion from last year. You talk about great team owners. Here's one as well. Ricardo Juncos, of course, now with the IndyCar program as well. He's actually operating the quick jack at the back of the car as they're making changes and putting new tires on Franzoni's number 23. I talked to one of the crew members from the IndyCar team who has worked for a number of different operations. He's now working with Ricky Juncos, and he said he's never had an owner like this, never had a culture to work with, and he just said the absolute best owner he's ever had a chance to work under. That's, I think, big words for Ricky Juncos. It's great to see him down here, hands-on the quick jack here, helping out Victor Franzoni.
That's pretty cool. With all due respect to Roger Penske and Chip Ganassi, they're some of the greatest owners in all of motorsports. I don't see them down there working the quick jack on those cars.
And that's the kind of respect I have for Ricky Juncos, is that ever since he came into Pro Mazda in 2009 and then got to race against him actually in other teams in the Pro Mazda series in 2009, 2010. I didn't like him at the time because he was beating me. But outside of that, the organization he's built is just so professional, and he's done such a fine job kind of running the same system across the board and always top-notch both in looks and also quality of program. So definitely deserving of every bit of success that he has.
We're getting right down to it here at qualifying. A little over 7 minutes to go for these Indy Lights drivers. Just saw Pato O'Ward sling it through the S's down the backstretch as he's getting after it. Dalton Kellett has popped to P1 at a minute 13.771. Victor Franzoni is second. Ryan Norman third. Aaron Telitz fourth. And then some of the heavy hitters down a little bit further. Pato O'Ward is 5th. Santi Urrutia is 6th. Colton Herta is 7th. And Colton Herta actually just jumped up to the 2nd spot. Alfonso Celis, the only driver that we know is locked in right now, he's going to qualify 8th after an issue early in qualifying. A little topsy-turvy right now, but certainly, Anders, everybody on different strategies in terms of when they're going out of the racetrack. With just 6.5 minutes, though, all those strategies kind of convene into one. Everyone's got to be pushing awful hard.
Yeah, and on paper, the strategy that Pato O'Ward has is the best one by going out as late as you possibly can to let the track temp come to you. But if you get caught out by a red flag, I mean, he's sitting P6 right now, so it definitely is a very aggressive strategy to play at this point in qualifying. So he's going to be hoping for no red flag here with only 6 minutes to go.
Dave first.
Yeah, quick question for Anders Krohn. Okay, so the 98, Colton Herta came in roughly 4 or 5 minutes ago, threw on a set of sticker Cooper tires, goes out there. I'm presuming he's done 2 laps on those tires. So he shoots up to number 2. So is this perhaps the optimum lap on those sticker Cooper tires? We'll see what he can do in this lap that he's currently on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think with a Cooper tire, you're looking for lap 2 to lap 4 to get your lap in, and whereas on the Firestone in IndyCar, you only have 1 lap on the Firestone Red, as Colton Herta now swings it to P1 with a 1:13.60. But Pato O'Ward on his first flyer does a 13.64. What a lap for Pato O'Ward, and you know he's going to go even quicker on this one. So Colton Herta is going to have to up his game here on this next lap. Otherwise, I think Pato O'Ward's going to go to the top on the next one.
Dave first down there with a crystal ball. He kind of saw that coming, didn't he?
Well, but here's the thing. Okay, so Pato O'Ward came in after Colton Herta, so presumably this is the sweet spot on his set of sticker tires, huh?
Well, I think Pato O'Ward now, he just did 1 flyer and did 13.64, so I think the second flyer is going to be significantly quicker. If you looked at the lap time progression of Colton Herta, he improved pretty significantly from his first to his second flyer. So Colton Herta here needs to put a big one in on his third flyer.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on Pato O'Ward. He should be by the museum at this point. He makes his way down the back straightaway and up through the S's, where there is a lot of elevation here, back down the hill, and then through the right-hander. He'll be coming down across the timing line, Anders. Pato O'Ward, the Mexican driver, looking for a quick lap.
Wow, goes slower.
Interesting. Not
4/10 slower even.
Not able to knock off Colton Herta, as Herta is laying down some bigger laps himself. A minute 13.584. Rob Houghton, that's the fastest lap of this session.
Just to add a little fuel to it, the last driver to come into pit lane to get those new new tires, those new Coopers, was Victor Franzoni in the 23. So if we're looking at guys to find out when they get into their optimum window, the last guy to do that will be Victor Franzoni.
4 minutes to go and a new P1, Anders.
Aaron Telitz with a huge lap, 1:13.45, 10.5 up on Colton Herta. Let's see where on track he is, and I think, and I may have this wrong, and Dave First and Rob Houghton, you may be able to correct me here, but I think Aaron Telitz without 1 or 2 laps after Colton Herta.
You're absolutely right, but I think Rob may be onto something, because Victor Franzoni was the last to put on a fresh set of Cooper tires. So that sweet spot presumably should happen in the next couple of minutes.
Absolutely, but I think, again, the really tricky thing here, as we have now 3.5 minutes to go, is if a red flag comes out, that strategy is not the one to go at all. So if you had a crystal ball and knew that there was going to be no red flag, then absolutely you want to be the last taker on those Cooper tires to have the sweet spot when the track temp is rising and there's more and more and more Cooper tire rubber on the track.
Pato O'Ward jumps to P1. Colton Herta jumps to 2nd. And look how close those lap times are, Anders. We're talking 1/100th of a second separating those Andretti teammates.
That is just insanity. And then you have Aaron Telitz as well on a flyer here. Let's see if he can respond. But this is so close at the moment, and exactly what we're expecting, at least from the Andretti teammates. But for Aaron Telitz to be this close, if you remember back to last year here at Barber Motorsports Park, the entire Bilardi Auto Racing team were struggling so badly. So they've rebounded very, very strongly.
A very, very spirited qualifying session. Victor Franzoni has improved his time on those new Cooper tires. Not enough to move him into the first 2 rows, though, as he jumps up to 5th at a minute 13.66. Anders, everything's so tight from Pato O'Ward down to 7th place running Ryan Norman, all within just about a half a second. I mean, the competition level in Indy Lights really showing out in this spirited qualifying session.
It's exactly like we've talked about going into the season. Yeah, it's a small field, but it's so stacked. I mean, I think at any point in time, basically everyone here can win a race. Even Alfonso Celis, once he gets some more experience under his belt, I think he's going to challenge for wins later on in the year. So it really is competitive. And to look at just how close it is. And now Pato O'Ward has made his trademark move. He does a quick lap, then he slows up by about 2.5 seconds. And now he's going to go for one more flyer here with 1 minute 45 seconds to go. He's going to have 1 or 2 more flyers to go.
Qualifying so important here at Barber Motorsports Park, as this is one of the most challenging places to get side by side. Pato O'Ward makes his way down into turn number 5. He looked very smooth. Always looking, Anders, for brake smoke for guys that might be lighting up the tires. We know they're pushing hard, but he looked awful smooth through turn number 5. Santi Urrutia has brought that car to pit lane for Bilardi Auto Racing as he currently sits 4th with, again, just over a minute to go in qualifying. So everybody going to get about 2 more laps here at Barber Motorsports Park. Pato O'Ward making his way down the back straightaway through the S's, pushing hard by the fans that have already set up underneath the trees on the far end of the racetrack, back up the hill, across the timing line. Not fast quicker enough to improve, but awful close, Anders, just about a 10th off. And with just 1 more minute to go, he's going to go for one more flyer here as Aaron Telitz now with a 1:13.4 or a 1:13.82 rather. Santi Urrutia moved up to 2nd. Colton Herta down to 3rd. Telitz down to 5th as timing and scoring getting awful jumbled up here in the final minutes of qualifying. It's Pato O'Ward, everyone chasing him right now here in qualifying as we are under 30 seconds to go here at Barber Motorsports Park. Pato O'Ward, the driver that went to victory lane yesterday in race number 1. He's got 2 wins already this season. He is an awful impressive young man as Victor Franzoni now pops to P2. How about that, Anders? Look at that, and I think he can possibly pounce in one more lap here, and he is on the ideal strategy here, just coming across the start-finish line right now. He's going to get the best of everyone else's rubber. Let's see what he can do on the final lap here. All you have to do is get across that timing line with 1 second remaining, and you'll get an extra lap, get to complete the lap that you are on. So all these drivers now completing up on qualifying here at Barber Motorsports Park. And everyone's chasing that 1:13.3288 for Pato O'Ward. O'Ward across the timing line. He slowed down significantly on that final lap. So he is done for the session. And now Anders kind of has to sweat it out. As Colton Herta is the first across the timing line, he'll do no better than 3rd. Yeah, and that Aaron Telitz now coming up towards the timing line. Looks like he is backed off. He's not going to go for another flyer. So he's going to stay as is. And it looks like Victor Franzoni's the only one left on the racetrack if he is pushing. You saw him make it across that timing line in time. He is pushing. Where's he going to end up? Victor Franzoni, what can you do? No! Goes no quicker. P2 and pole position for Pato O'Ward. That was a flyer, though, for Franzoni, a 1:13.8. He was certainly pushing. Lost 4/10 from his quick lap. But still, he had the ideal conditions, track conditions-wise, with all that rubber laid down. Here from these Mazda tires. That's still a nice effort for Victor Franzoni, though, to be starting outside row 1. And it's his best qualifying position yet this year, and he's just building momentum. Again, he's had 3 fourth-place finishes so far at the start of the year, so he's just slowly but gradually building momentum into this season. But let me tell you, that was an awesome qualifying session. That was a legitimately fantastic qualifying session. And Victor Franzoni, job well done. Pato O'Ward extracting the time when he had to. And Colton Herta nudging into that top 3 right at the end. That was awesome. Top 7 separated by 54/100ths of a second. That is awful tight. And at the top, it's Pato O'Ward at a 1:13.328. While we wait to hear from him, here's how everything shook out. It is O'Ward on the pole. Victor Franzoni, the Pro Mazda champion from 1 year ago, will start to his outside when we go racing later this afternoon. Colton Herta ends up 3rd. Santi Urrutia is 4th. Aaron Telitz going to be right there in the Hornet's Nest, starting 5th when we go racing later today. Dalton Kellett ends up 6th. Ryan Norman 7th. And Alfonso Celis in 8th. Let's hear from the pole sitter, standing by with Rob Howden.
Nick, Pato O'Ward right here with me. That was one of those sessions, those qualifying runs where we saw how good this field is. So many different drivers on top. Herta, Franzoni, Urrutia, Tila's all on top at one point, but you saved it to the very end. We're able to extract everything from those tires. Tell me a little bit about that fast lap.
Well, we first went out with one of the scrub sets that we had from yesterday, because we basically used almost all our new sets yesterday. We only had one. But then the red flag came out, and I kind of just got like 3-4 laps just to get into the rhythm. The car felt really good, and I said, okay, just put the new tires on. I'm sure I'll be fine. And I know the times were definitely really close. I'm not sure how much I cleared, but I'm assuming a little less than a tenth or so. The car felt really well. It just tells you like there's quality in the field. I just wish there was more cars. But I think anybody in the top 5 honestly can win the race, top 6. So it's going to be an interesting one tonight. I mean, in the afternoon today. I think we start at noon. It's going to be a rainy one, so 10:50. Never mind.
Yeah, we're going a little early now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting of what we can accomplish. I haven't really done much laps in the rain, so that's going to be a new learning curve for me. But I'm definitely going to be pushing for the win and get a good sweep this weekend.
And good luck on the race.
Thank you so much.
Day first, there he is. Great run there for Pato O'Ward.
And Victor Franzoni almost won. Did you have anything left in the car?
No, we are working a lot. I'm learning the Indy Lights. The team is learning how I drive, and we are putting everything together. After the race yesterday, we talked until like 8 p.m. to try to find a better setup, and we found. We were almost pole. Was my best result until now in a quali. I was all the time fourth, fifth. Finally, now I'm top 3. I'm second. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for the rain. All my results were always really good in the rain, the road to Indy. So I'm excited for the rain. And I wanted the dry and the quali to test if our setting was better, and it was better. So now I'm hoping the rain.
Big smiles, big step forward. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Victor Franzoni, he'll roll off second.
Appreciate that, Dave First and Rob Howden. Great job down there in a very fun qualifying session. Anders, final thoughts as, again, this interesting news that this race is going to be moved up by nearly an hour here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Well, and everyone's saying rain, but, I know all too well it's never rained in Alabama. I've never been here in the rain. No, just joking. I think the race is going to be extremely exciting. And if anyone remember back to Toronto in the rain, these cars and these engines, if you can drive these things in the wet, you can drive anything in the wet. And again, down to that turbo, when that thing spools up, it gives you so much power, so easy to break the rear loose. And around a place like this, you have to be so patient in the rain. So I really, really think that whoever comes out on top of the race today is going to be someone that's patient, aggressive, all in one.
So programming note here on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network, 10:40 Central Time, 11:40 Eastern is when we will take the air for the Indy Lights series. Stay tuned on social media to the official IndyCar account, and we'll see if we anticipate any changes there as well, because certainly there is weather in the area. But again, we will talk to you at 10:40 Central Time, 11:40 Eastern, as we'll go racing here at Barber Motorsports Park in the Indy Lights series presented by Cooper Tires. For Dave First and Rob Howden and Anders Krohn here in the booth, I'm Nick Yeoman. Congratulations to Pato O'Ward, the pole winner for race number 2 here in Birmingham.
At Idaho, Stingray Robb and the Team Pelfrey number 82 will start in the 10th position. Driver now into the 9th spot inside of row number 5, double winner at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, running for Juncos Racing in the Juncos sponsored, rather the Jumbo Supermarket sponsored number 2. It's the driver from the Netherlands, Renus VK. Moving now to row number 4 on the outside out of New York, New York. Robert McGinnis, the rookie driver for Juncos Racing in the number 2. He'll start 9th. And alongside him, the reigning USF 2000 champion in the Soul Red Mazda-sponsored car, number 3 out of Jupiter, Florida, Oliver Askew. Row number 3, 2 of the yellow Team Pelfrey cars. Andres Gutierrez on the outside in the 81. Rafa Martins on the inside in the number 80. To row number 2, a impressive young driver out of England. Look out for Harrison Scott in the number 10. If we do get wet conditions, he will be a master at it. RP Motorsports, the team, 10 on the side of the car. Harrison Scott starting in 4th. Alongside him from Brazil in the number 1, second-year driver in the Pro Mazda Championship, Carlos Cunha in the number 1 for Juncos Racing, starting in 3rd. Now we'll move to the front row. On the outside from Chicago, Illinois, rookie driver in Pro Mazda for BN Racing, number 79, David Malukas. And the driver on the pole having a fantastic weekend so far. 2 pole positions, a new track record, and his first Pro Mazda race win yesterday for Exclusive Autosport at a Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. Parker Thompson on the pole in the number 90. Thompson and Malukas on row number 1. Cunha and Scott, row 2. Martins and Gutierrez, row 3. Askew and McGinnis, row 4. VK and Robb, row 5. Enders and Lostoshkin, row 6. Larini and Wright, row 7. And Charles Finelli on row number 8. Time to get these drivers fired up. I'm going to pass it over to get the command to start from the Cooper Tire Girls.
On behalf of everyone at Cooper Tires, drivers, start your Mazda engines.
Engines firing up as we get ready to go racing. Second event of the doubleheader, round 4 of the Pro Mazda Championship in tough conditions here at Barber Motorsports Park. I'll head back to the booth where I'll join Rick Green.
Well, thank you, Rob. Come on up here where it's dry. Doesn't look like at the moment there's any wet coming down. There is a little residual rain on our window on the world up here above the flag stand and in front of the start-finish line. This is going to be interesting. I am looking at the cars that are lined up, ready to go. Every one of them, as far as I've seen, all are on slicks. So, what happens? We're going to find out. This is a up-and-coming series. This is where drivers are still in the educational process. They know how to drive the cars, some of them a little more than basically. But what they're trying to do is, how do you compete? How do you win? How do you make the car go faster? How do you deal with competition? And in this case, how do you deal with rain? So momentarily, we're going to be joined by Rob Houghton, who's going to take us to the green flag. Once again, folks, if you're here, don't forget, if you head over to the Haggerty Car Corral across the street from the Surge Air Fan Zone, free coffee and donuts, and also the calendar change at 10:45, we're going to go with the Indy Lights. So we do have a whole lot of great racing still in store. We're not going to let a little rain stop us, and we're going to have a good time. And we're all up here good and dry. Rob's up here, made it up to the PA stand, and the ever colorful, and I don't care what they say about you, Rob. I enjoy working with you and hearing you call the race. So we're ready when you're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Houghton.
Thank you so much, Rick. Obviously a little jaunt from pit lane to get up here to the announcer's booth. As the drivers circulate around the racetrack, we'll take an opportunity to say hello to everyone tuning in to the Mazda Road to Indy app. If you're a fan of the Mazda Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires and want to follow the journeys of these young drivers, download the app to your iPhone or Droid mobile device. Live commentary, live episodes. Be able to tune right in on everything. First opportunity for these young drivers to get a feel for this racetrack. Interesting to me that I don't think anybody went out with the rain tires. I kind of thought somebody might have rolled the dice on it and tried to go rains. There is a lot of wetness on the racetrack still. I know the dry line started to develop a little bit, but I'm so surprised that someone didn't roll the dice, because if the rain does come back, that driver, of course, would have a huge advantage. Everyone else either staying out and trying to brave the conditions. A drastic decrease in traction should we come back to rain with those drivers on those slick tires, especially with the horsepower numbers, 275 horsepower for these Mazda power plants. So they give them a couple laps around just to get a feel for things. One more lap and we'll go green. Again, Parker Thompson on the pole position. It's been a great weekend so far for the young driver out of Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. 20 years of age. Race winner in USF 2000 2 years ago with Cape Motorsports. debut with Exclusive Autosport in their first season of USF 2000 last year, and kind of led the team. 3 wins on the season. Impressive run at Toronto, sweeping the weekend on the streets in his home country. Wins his first Pro Mazda race yesterday in a dominant style after scoring 2 pole positions and a new track record here at Barber Motorsports Park. Parker Thompson, David Malukas on the front row, the young Canadian and the young American. The Brazilian Carlos Cunha in third. English driver Harrison Scott in fourth. The Brazilian Rafa Martins, P5. Out of Mexico, Andres Gutierrez, P6. 2 young Americans on row number 4, Oliver Askew and Robert McGinnis. The Dutch driver Rinus VK, Rinus van Kamphout on row 5 on the inside, starting 9th. The American Stingray Robb in 10th. The American Corey Enders starting 11th. Russian-born Nikita Listoshkin in 12th. From Italy, Lodovico Lorini in 13th. Russian-born Chris Wright, living now in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in 14th. The Canadian Antonio Saravalli was scheduled to start 15th. Just feeling under the weather today, not able to make the start. While Charles Finelli, another driver out of New York, starting in the 15th position. This is going to be tough conditions for these young drivers. They're having a feel for it, trying to build some heat into these tires now. This opening lap, when they first get on the loud pedal, that's when it's really going to be interesting. Being told we might not have Charles Finelli on track. Not sure what happened to Finelli. Drivers lining up and getting set to go. Again, this will be very interesting how things happen at turn number 1. They're going to try to get through cleanly. 1, 2, and 3. Of course, the Alabama roller coaster is so tough here. These drivers will have to navigate these tricky conditions. Low grip. And again, surprised no one decided to go to wets. Lining up nicely. They'll wait for the pole sitter to punch off, and that green flag will fly, allowing the red drivers to roll, and there they go. Green, green, green. Thompson with a great start. As does Harrison Scott. He tucks up on the gearbox, number 79. Oh, we got drivers coming in deep. Great move for Nikita Listoshkin. He avoided a huge wreck there by getting out of it, as a couple drivers were sliding through hard. They're clean so far through turn 1, 2, down to 3. Through 4 now, rolling over to that straightaway that comes down to turn number 5, Charlotte's Web. Downhill braking, left-hand hairpin through 6 and 7. Thompson leads them. Malukas in second. Great job thus far. 2 Pelfrey drivers now, 3rd and 4th. Scott goes back to 5th. Harrison Scott with some good forward bite coming out at turn number 6, though. He'll get a good run as he tries to go by Rafa Martins. It's the second level of the Mazda Road to Indy. These drivers, a number of them, have a lot of experience here at Barber throughout the Road to Indy, running in the USF 2000 series, and they showed very well here. I think we have a challenge for the lead early on here. David Malukas getting a good run. He's right off the rear gearbox of Parker Thompson. I'm going to say probably 2 kart lengths for the tail of the gearbox of Thompson to the front nose wing of David Malukas. Again, everyone just trying to settle in early here. Watching some of these drivers get up on the curbing on the outside. That's always tough. The paint, ultra slippery in the wet weather. Listoshkin trying to go to work on his teammate Oliver Askew. That's a battle, I believe, for 8th or 9th at this point. We'll give you a full field rundown. First time by. Parker Thompson with the lead. David Malukas runs in second. Make that Harrison Scott up to P2. Oh, okay, that's Harrison Scott. Similar black and silver livery. But again, that's Harrison Scott, as I had said earlier. Driver from the UK, he is used and said this, has driven in the wet many, many times. He's going to make a move to the inside. Parker Thompson trying to run him down. He's going to go to the inside. Parker's going to go almost off the race. He goes 4 wheels off. Thompson's going to lose another spot trying to outcook it. He'll go back to 3rd. Andres Gutierrez jumps up to 2nd as Parker Thompson trying to defend from Harrison Scott. Goes too deep into turn number 5. The car just pushes off. He goes 4 wheels into the dirt on the exit of 5. So Parker Thompson trying to get a feel for it here. And again, not surprised that Harrison Scott has shown prowess here in the damp conditions. Again, not wet. It's not raining here trackside, but the track is very damp. They're able to get enough grip thus far in these Cooper tires. And you know the teams have dialed in a ton of mechanical grip in terms of the chassis setup and the balance of the race car. The heavier air will help the downforce. Keeping these cars planted. I'm surprised with the grip levels they've been able to roll out so far. Now well off the pole time based on speed. 130.6 last time by for Parker Thompson. Remember the new pole time, mid-16. So about 14 seconds off the pace, so they just can't roll the same amount of corner speed. Down to a 127 now, just starting to build some heat into these tires. Parker Thompson now going to work on Andres Gutierrez to try to get back into second. Harrison Scott, though, looking to capitalize on conditions that he is more familiar with, having driven in the wet many times, racing in England. Thompson's going to look to the inside of Gutierrez again, coming down into turn number 5. Can't quite make it stick. Going to try to get back on the throttle. When you go to the inside like that, you're going to lose some of that exit speed because you got to get the car fully turned before you can get back on the throttle. You go too early, and the car's still turned to get on that throttle, and the engine spools up. It's going to go around on you. The rear end will kick out. You've got to be very smart, very smooth in the throttle. Now, even though this isn't full wet conditions where they would have the rain tires on and everybody will be just fighting for grip and trying to find a different rain line around the track, the fact that we know that we are well off our fast times, still about 10 seconds off the fast laps, this is where the drivers who can modulate the throttle and be very late on the steering in, but they're going to excel. They're the ones that will find their way to the front, like a Harrison Scott. He knows how to change his driving style to handle these wet conditions. They'll come around at turn number 17 again to complete lap number 5 of a scheduled 25. Pro Mazda drivers doing a great job so far. Here's your full field rundown. Harrison Scott, your leader, new fast lap, 126.3. Andres Gutierrez runs in second, another 126.3. Parker Thompson, 126.4 in third. Rafa Martin, 126.3. Top 5 drivers, all either 126.3 or 126.4. Such great talent here in Pro Mazda. 16 drivers started the weekend in this brand new PM18. So it's Scott, Gutierrez, Thompson, Martins, and Malukas, your top 5. Rinus VK now runs in 6th. Carlos Cunha in 7th. Robert McGinnis, 8th. Oliver Askew in 9th. Stingray Robb in 10th. Lodovico Lorini, the number 27, runs 11th. Corey Enders in 12th, his debut weekend in the PM18. Chris Wright, 13th. Nikita Listoshkin, 14th. As we said, Charles Finelli did not start, neither did Antonio Serravalle, rather. So 2 drivers not making the call to the green. We had 14 who have been able to navigate the opening 5 laps in style. Very impressed with the way they've been able to handle themselves. What we are going to see happen as they continue to run, and we're not getting any more precipitation, I don't think. And looking at the window here on our announcer's booth, maybe a little sprinkle here and there. If we're indeed able to develop a decent rain line, it could be interesting. Now, you're going to be able to see the speeds drop, but if you try to make that overtaking maneuver where you go offline, off that dry line, into the wet, the damp track where you would have to make that move, you're going to lose a lot of grip. So, at this point, Harrison Scott looking pretty comfortable out front. 0.6 of a second to lead. Parker Thompson's fallen back a little bit. He was a couple of car lengths off the back of Gutierrez for a majority of that first handful of laps. But he's now falling into the clutches of Rafa Martins and David Malukas. Rinus VK right there in 6th. Key in a race like this with tough conditions, do your best to try to move forward, but you must finish. Consistency always pays off in a run for the championship. And a key component of this entire Mazda Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires is the scholarships. If you win the championship at USF 2000, you win the scholarship to go run the next year. They pay for your entire program to go run in Pro Mazda next year. If you win the Pro Mazda Championship, you get the scholarship to run Indy Lights. If you win the Indy Lights Championship, like Kyle Kaiser did in 2017, it's a 3-race guaranteed program in the Verizon IndyCar Series, including the Indianapolis 500. Good racing thus far. And again, watching that battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. New fast lap for Harrison Scott. He and Gutierrez now down to 124.1s. I would say that Parker Thompson may be worried about losing that spot, except for the fact that David Malukas very aggressively trying to get by Rafa Martins now. So it's taking the focus that Martins had off. He was thinking aggression. He was thinking about trying to get into that third position. Now, focus more on trying to hold Malukas back. Hold back David Malukas. Being told contact on the racetrack between number 27, Lodovico Larini, and number 8, Nikita Lostoshin. It's going to be a drive-through penalty for Lodovico Larini in the 27. The contact move Lostoshin down into 14th. So, tough start for Larini. His teammate actually leading the way. Larini will get that drive-through penalty, effectively ending his shot at trying to be inside the top 10. Going to be right into the Indy Lights race after Pro Mazda. The event was scheduled to go early, scheduled around noontime, I believe. They've moved it up to, I want to say, a 10:50 green flag. So we'll be getting things underway with the introduction of the drivers at 10:40. Harrison Scott leading still, only by half a second, though. He took the lead pretty decisively from Parker Thompson, but he's not been able to pull away from Andres Gutierrez, who's been very impressive. Lodovico Larini in the 27 now serving his drive-through penalty. Rolls by us here in the announcer's booth. Right at start and finish here at Barber Motorsports Park. Again, much different conditions than we had yesterday. Beautiful weather yesterday, not so much here today. Significantly cooler, and of course with the wet. Biggest battle on the racetrack at this point here, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Maybe a couple of lengths between them. Rafa Martins in the number 80, the yellow Team Pelfrey car. The black and silver, black and gold and red. Number 79 of David Malukas, and the white and green Juncos colors of Arenas VK. That's 4th, 5th, and 6th. You can tell this track getting better and better. The times just keep falling as the drivers build some heat into their tires. The Cooper tire takes a little longer, of course, with the dampness and with the cooler temperatures. We're now down to a 122.8. Gutierrez actually a little bit quicker than Scott. In fact, Parker Thompson quicker than Gutierrez. Thompson was the quickest driver on the racetrack last time by, a 122.7. We're not done here yet because Parker Thompson's still up on the wheel. He's been able to clear Rafa Martins, so he's able to focus forward. You can be sure his spotter on the radio with him saying, "You're good, you're clear." You got a 1.5 gap back to Martins. You just look forward, see if you can't reel in these leaders. Thompson would love to go back-to-back here in Barber. Did it just 2 years ago in the USF 2000 Championship. There's a pass further back in the field. That's for 12th position. Nikita Lostoshin to the inside of Chris Wright. Lostoshin trying to get some forward bite. Chris Wright gets a better run out of turn number 5 up to 6. They're going to go side by side over to 7 and 8. Drivers working their way out. The leaders coming out of 16 through 17. Excellent battle further back there for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Martins, Malukas, VK, and now Carlos Cunha. He wants to come in and play. Trio, check it out. Look at Parker Thompson reeling him in. He was a half second quicker than the leader last time by. Parker Thompson ready to attack. I had mentioned how maybe less grip there would be offline, making that move into turn number 5. Well, Nikita Lostoshin just showed us it can be done. And in fact, Gutierrez getting a better run on the outside. Here they come out of turn number 5. It's a drag race out of 5 through 6. It's Gutierrez on the inside, Scott on the outside. Working over to turn number 7 and 8. Who's going to get through here first? New leader. Book it. To the inside comes Gutierrez. Andres Gutierrez now to the lead. Scott goes back to second. Parker Thompson wringing his hands on this one. He likes them battling in front. He's right there. So Andres Gutierrez in the number 81 machine has put himself to P1, able to get by Harrison Scott. Getting a light sprinkle here on the racing surface. That is going to make things interesting. Looking down, pit lane. People have got the hats on. The back of their hoods are up. See a couple of umbrellas, not too many. Just a light sprinkle. That could change things. It could catch these drivers out. Luckily, we have a little bit of a spread in terms of some of the drivers to try to keep these corners warm. Gutierrez now goes quickest, 124 flat. He's got the lead, a half a second over Harrison Scott. Parker Thompson trying to rebound. Started on pole, fell back early with a great move by Harrison Scott in turn 5. Thompson just pushing a little wide in 5, went 4 wheels off into the grass. Gingerly and expertly brought it back on into the 3rd position to reset his attack. He's now reeling in Harrison Scott as Gutierrez has taken over the point. 15 laps to go. That battle further back between Nikita Listoshkin, Corey Enders, and Lodovico Larini looking good as Larini back on track and catching up to the tail of the field after his drive-through. Kudos to Larini for getting back into it. Getting information that Gutierrez is very happy with the car as it gets more damp. Quote picking up from one of our media members on Twitter is the wetter the track gets, the better this car is. You can see that Gutierrez pulling away now by a full second. Half a second faster than both Harrison Scott and Parker Thompson the last lap. Does that play well for Rafa Martins as well? Remember, same team, Team Pelfrey. If they had the same setup on there, Martins may have a better race car here. He got a chance to get to the podium. Still 14 laps to go. So we'll definitely keep an eye on Rafa Martins. Might have had a spin there for, I think, Stingray Robb, one of the Team Pelfrey cars well back. I think Stingray must have went around. Couple laps ago, Stingray went around. Still, I believe he's still running in that 10th position, though, as the gap further back, Larini, Listoshkin, and Enders. I think Robb's still in the 10th spot. Leaders coming across the line, and again, a little bit of a sprinkle coming back on the racetrack. That could make things interesting here. Well, look at this. Gutierrez now 1.2 seconds out. We'll be at the halfway point next time by. 13 laps down, 12 to go. That will be next time by. You can see it. Oh, here we got some good racing further back. There's a move there by one of the Team Pelfrey cars to get by. I think that's Robert McGinnis making a move on Carlos Cunha. No, that's Cunha. Or VK getting by Martins potentially. Tremendous battle here as the conditions getting tougher and tougher for drivers at Pro Mazda. This is some aggressive racing. VK and Cunha just really going at it with Martins. They'll rocket down the back straightaway. Gutierrez, Scott, and Thompson. Thompson closing on Scott. David Malukas. About a half a second of Rafa Martins, but Martins is in trouble. He's got work to do. Rinus VK and Carlos Cunha right there. I'd mentioned Stingray Robb still running in the 10th position, all alone on the racetrack. He's about, I'll say, 10 seconds behind Oliver Askew. He's got 21 seconds on Lodovico Larini. So Stingray Robb just needs to stay focused. Here's a pass. Here comes, oh, what an aggressive move here. I was going to say, here comes the number 2 of Rinus VK. Look at this battle with Rafa Martins. VK around the outside of turn 2. Rinus VK trying to roll the outside. No. Has to back out of it on the outside of that corner and shows his maturity by tucking into the inside. Harrison Scott now defending to the inside on Parker Thompson. Thompson around the outside. Side by side. They're going to run out of room. That was close. Parker Thompson made a really good run to the outside of Harrison Scott. He gets a better drive, though. He'll tuck to the inside, coming to turn number 7 and 8. Here comes Thompson to the inside. What happens coming out of this corner? Scott still with the position. David Malukas, this time his turn to watch the action and get up on the wheel to try to close in. Parker Thompson throwing everything at Harrison Scott right now, just as Rinus VeeKay digging into the bag of tricks to try to find a way by Rafa Martins. Oh, big wiggle for Martins coming through turn number, I want to say that was turn number 14. Oh, man. He'll look to the bottom of the racetrack. That's actually VeeKay looking to the bottom of the racetrack. Look at these guys trying to find a way by. Here goes VeeKay to the inside of Martins. I think he's through. Indeed, Rinus VeeKay finally getting to the inside of Martins. Here's Carlos Cunha on the inside as well. Martins going to try to hold him back into turn number 1. No, he's through as well. Both Uncos racing cars able to get through. So Rafa Martins goes from 5th down to 7th. The number 80 of Rafa Martins actually getting a warning for blocking. His teammate Andres Gutierrez, though, in the yellow, the vibrant yellow Team Pelfrey car, stretching away. Robert McGinnis now going to work. He's trying to find a way. You can see that there. McGinnis to the bottom of the racetrack. Rafa Martins trying to pressure him. Not able to get the job done again. Robert McGinnis thinking better of it. Trying to keep a cool head. He watches his teammates get by Martins and wants to do it himself. .11 laps remaining of what has been a very entertaining Pro Mazda race here in very challenging conditions for these young drivers. The second rung of the Mazda Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. Just 2 steps away from the Verizon IndyCar Series. A program that saw the stops by drivers like Marco Andretti, Graham Rahal, James Hinchcliffe, Connor Daly there as well, Gabby Chavez, Zach Veach. And of course, all the newer drivers who have come through the ranks, Spencer Piggott as well. Kyle Kaiser, all spending time in Pro Mazda on their way to the big show. Gutierrez now leading by 1.7 seconds. Parker Thompson trying to reset here. Look to the inside this time, coming out of turn number 5. Harrison Scott and Parker Thompson both 0.2 of a second faster than Gutierrez last time by. Back by 1.7 seconds. Still a long way to go, 10 laps. Couple tenths of a second a lap gets the job done. Even space now between Scott and Thompson and Malukas. We had Rinus VeeKay dominate the action at the opening round of the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Parker Thompson winning race number 3. Will it be Andres Gutierrez here in race number 4? Tremendous championship shaping up here for 2018. Of course, the platform brand new, the Tanis-built PM18, a new race car. The same basic chassis, the same tub as the USF 17 that was introduced to the program last year. So you compare this car to the USF 2000 cars, almost 100 horsepower more downforce, more braking capabilities, bigger tires, more rubber, more grip. Essentially, it's just more everything. And that's why we are breaking track records all year long. We've already did one at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. You know we're going to break the track record when we get to Indianapolis. Did it here by 4 seconds. Tremendous car that really will develop these young drivers to jump into the Indy Lights car, the Dallara IL-15, which now with the new Universal Aero Kit in the Verizon IndyCar program has really made the Indy Lights car even more of a success, more of a viable training ground in terms of preparing drivers to get into the Verizon IndyCar series. Here's your quick full field rundown here as we complete lap number 16. Call that lap 17. Parker Thompson actually 0.4 of a second quicker. They are closing up. Let's do this first. Scott and Thompson have closed it within 0.6 of a second. Both Scott and Thompson, 1:22.1s. Malukas a 1:21.9. David Malukas not done yet either, as our top 4 drivers all separated by less than 2 seconds. Andres Gutierrez leads in the 81s. Harrison Scott second in the number 10. Parker Thompson third in the 90. It's the 79 of David Malukas in 4th spot. Carlos Cunha in 5th. Rinus VeeKay in 6th position. 7th is Rafa Martins. 8th, Robert McGinnis. 9th, Oliver Askew. 10th, Stingray Robb. 11th, Loderico Lavini. He's come back. Larini's come back after that drive-through to get back to 11th. Nikita Listoshkin in 12th. Corey Enders in 13th. Chris Wright 14th of the 14 drivers that are on the racetrack. 8 laps remaining. We got ourselves a great battle up front now. Parker Thompson closing up right in to the gearbox again of Harrison Scott. Carlos Cunha now turning quick lap. Remember, we started this race turning laps of about 1 minute and 30. We're now down to 1:21.1s, about 5 seconds off full fast lap. You can see how these drivers just expertly dealing with the conditions. Yeah, the Juncos racing cars are closing up here. We're not done at all. Both Rinus VeeKay and Carlos Cunha are closing. Cunha able to get by VeeKay. He goes to P5. So it's Cunha now trying to make a move to see if he can't put some pressure on David Malukas. Indy Lights drivers in the paddock preparing for their second race of the weekend. There's Pato O'Ward with a huge victory. Scored the pole position this morning as well for race number 2. Looking to go green with that race at 10:50. It's about 34 minutes from now. Move that event up a little bit to try to beat this rain. Here come your leaders. Malukas now closing right up on Parker Thompson to turn number 1. They come through turn 1. It's a 0.7 of a second lead. Fastest driver on the racetrack right now on the BN Racing number 79, David Malukas. They're actually closing up on the tail of the field now. Malukas now closing, as is Parker Thompson on Harrison Scott. They're all tight and close together coming into turn number 5. I think we're starting to get a little more precipitation. Indeed, you can see it hitting the window here. This is going to change everything. We'll see 5 laps to go next time by, and the rain's starting to come. Leaders again through 8, 9, and 10. Working through 12 and 13 up over the rise. 14, 15, 16 down the hill to 17. Tough part of this racetrack. Oh, we got some aggression happening further back. What happened here? As they come by, they're closing up here on Chris Wright now. It's still Gutierrez leading, but they're right up here on the 78 of Chris Wright. Carlos Cunha now by David Malukas. David Malukas swerving coming up the front straightaway, having gotten by Carlos Cunha. And in fact, he's lost a couple spots now. He goes back. Carlos Cunha now into the 4th position. Parker Thompson was all over them, but no, he's fallen back still to 3rd. He's quite a ways back now. Parker Thompson about a second behind Harrison Scott. Conditions about to get pretty wild here. Oh, we got drivers going off the racetrack. Couple of them off. That's Martinez. Or rather, Gutierrez goes off. Andres Gutierrez off. trying to get back on. Again, as I said, yellow flags are flying, full course yellow. Full course yellow on the racetrack. I want to say that was coming through turn number 9. 8 and 9. All of a sudden, I pick it up. I see that the rain's starting to come a little more, and then a shot of yellow goes across into the gravel trap, but continued. That allowed Harrison Scott to tuck in the inside. Parker Thompson staying on track as well. We are full course yellow with 5 to go. We'll see what the race directing team elects to do here. With 5 laps remaining, the rain starting to come. They may just call this. Scott, your leader. Thompson second. Cunha in third. VK fourth. Malukas fifth. McGinnis in sixth. Gutierrez all the way back to 7th position. So the conditions getting very tough very quickly. I'd mentioned that the rain was starting to come. We're getting a lot of spray here up on the booth. We can't obviously see the exact rain as it comes down. But we have had enough, and this track gets pretty slippery, especially with these drivers on slick tires. Not exactly sure what the situation will be. Here comes Oliver Askew. He's coming into pit lane. He's lost the front wing off that. Oh, the wing's still there. Parker Thompson coming in. Rather, not Parker Thompson. Oliver Askew, as I said, my apologies. The Soul Red Mazda coming in. The 82 of Stingray Robb coming in as well. Not being told of any drive-through penalties, so Stingray Robb coming in. He was in 10th position. Askew into pit lane. Trying to see what they're doing down there. They may be going to reins. They may be throwing the reins on right now. Indeed they are. The Cape Motorsports crew putting the reins on Oliver Askew. Does he expect we're going to go back to green? I'm not sure. They're trying to bunch everybody back up. They've got the rears on. Just trying to make sure they're good to go here. So one team has brought a driver in. That's Oliver Askew. They put the reins on the champion from USF 2000 last year. They're going to tighten those wheels down. We're still at pace car speed. There's still 4 to go. They're firing up, and there goes Askew. So he's on reins. How will this play out? If we go back to green, which we may very well do, unsure why we went full course yellow. I know a couple drivers have gone off the racetrack, but at times they allow the drivers to adjust to the changing weather. But they did go full course yellow. So Askew, the only driver I believe who has gone on to the wets. I don't know if they brought in Stingray Robb. I know he was in pit lane as well. They may have put Stingray on reins as well. I'm trying to see if I can see that as he comes across the line here. I don't think so. I think he's still on the slicks. They're still waiting for a couple drivers to close back up. Nikita Listoshka, one of the drivers, they're trying to get him to catch up to the tail of the field. One more driver into pit lane. It might be Corey Enders in the DE Force Racing entry. Indeed, Corey Enders coming in. They're going to go reins for Corey Enders as well. If indeed we elect to go back to green for one lap, the drivers with the reins are going to dominate. Watch them take to the outside of the racetrack. One of the things you will see this weekend, or today, if we do indeed have a wet weather race for the Verizon IndyCar Series, which it looks obviously that's going to happen, the rain line's so much different. Whereas you would run that race line where you get all the grip, where you get all the rubber, water and rubber, water and oil do not mix very well. So the grip level that you would have had in that racing line, just not there. You get on that and it's absolutely slippery. So you'll watch drivers work what they call the rain line, which is the way outside of the racetrack, the dirty part of the racetrack, but there's just no grip there. There's no rubber there. So that when it becomes wet, becomes the ideal line. You want to get off the rubber that's quite slippery. So you'll watch the drivers run the rim of the corner. They'll run all the way around the outside. They may start even a little bit more inside, then go outside. They won't run the traditional racing line. So again, Corey Ender's team, DE Force, they've made the move as well. How will this play out? What is the idea? What's race control thinking? Are we going back to green? Harrison Scott, your leader. Parker Thompson in second. Carlos Cunha in third. Rinus VK fourth. David Malukas in fifth. The drivers have all now had a chance to feel and understand the grip levels. Tough that Andres Gutierrez was the driver. He really had to be the first to see it, but that rain came quick. He went straight off. Impressive to see Harrison Scott and Parker Thompson adjust their cornering speed coming into turn number 8. Still throwing full course yellow here at start finish. 2 laps remaining. So a couple drivers rolling the dice. Oliver Askew was 10th. He ends up going back to 12th. I don't think the Cape Motorsports guys are saying, hey, you know what? We don't need a 10th. Let's see if we go back to green. We'll put the reins on, and we'll show you what we got. At this point, staying with the full course yellow, there's a good possibility that we may just go full course yellow all the way through to the end. Or do we do a one-lap battle here at the end once drivers have got a feel for it? Watching those lights in the back of the pace car. They didn't give the drivers the one to go last time by, so I'm having a feeling like they may just run this right through to the end of this race. It's been a great run for Harrison Scott, getting himself back into it. Remember, at all our events throughout the 2018 season, whether you're trackside or not, tune in to roadtoindy.tv. Head to the race control page of roadtoindy.tv. You get all the information you need to follow the events. Download that app as well to your phone. Live play-by-play. Access to all the Road to Indy TV episodes. Live timing. If you're a fan of the Verizon IndyCar series and want to follow the young drivers who are on their way up the ranks, that's the best way to do it. Download Mazda Road to Indy TV, that app to your phone, whether it's iPhone or one of the Droid devices. You can follow us from anywhere. And again, www.roadtoindy.tv and the race control page is just a fantastic place to watch each and every race. I personally like the strategy of going to rains. I'd like to see them try one more lap here with everybody understanding how wet it is to see if they can't tiptoe their way around. But I have a sneaking feeling that we're just going to run this one through to a checkered flag under yellow conditions. Although looking down to the flag stand, trying to see if we're going to get I don't know if we're going to get the white flag. Pace car remains on the track. Now we're still seeing yellow. This thing's going to go all the way to the end. I like the call, though, by Cape Motorsports to roll the dice to see if we went back to green. White and yellow. Harrison Scott's going to win this one, ladies and gentlemen. And this is going to finish under caution with the drivers on the racetrack in dry tires. Just about 2 teams electing to go to wets. Oliver Askew falling from 10th down into the 12th position. It's not a big loss for Oliver. Had they gone back to green, it would have been exciting, that's for sure. So they'll go around the pace car, follow it around one more time. But for all intents and purposes, this race is done, and we have our third winner on the season. All three first-time Pro Mazda winners as well. Rinus VeeKay sweeping the St. Petersburg weekend. His first win, of course, coming in race 1. Parker Thompson posting his first Pro Mazda victory yesterday. Harrison Scott's going to do it here today. So 3 winners in the first 4 races in Pro Mazda. Unofficially, I believe that Parker Thompson will hold the point lead as we leave Barber Motorsports Park and look a couple of weeks down the line. 3 weeks from now, we're on track at the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as part of the IndyCar Grand Prix weekend. These young drivers so fortunate to be part of the month of May celebrations, of course, leading up to the 102nd running of the Indianapolis 500. We definitely challenged our young Pro Mazda drivers here. Yesterday, of course, near perfect conditions. It's a beautiful day here in Birmingham. Today, much different. You know, as a driver, when you're having to dry off the soles of your racing shoes before you slide into the cockpit, it's going to be interesting once you get out onto the racetrack. They had to do that because we had some light sprinkles and a little bit of rain before we went green. Porsche drivers getting a dry line down for us. The racing was pretty solid. But as they come out of the final corner, we'll have the yellow of the checker being thrown. His first Pro Mazda win. The first Pro Mazda win for the brand new team, RP Motorsports as well. Harrison Scott scoring the victory. Parker Thompson in second. Carlos Cunha, an impressive run up to third. Rinus VeeKay fourth. David Malukas in fifth. Robert McGinnis in sixth spot. Andres Gutierrez was able to go to the front and lead. Disappointed for him having been the first to really get caught out by the rain when it did hit, going off over in turn number 8 into the gravel trap. He's able to really expertly bring it back on. A lot of times drivers will get caught in the trap. He was able to maintain his momentum and get back out onto the racing surface. Gutierrez is going to be carded in 7th when it's all said and done. Rafa Martins from Brazil in the number 80 ends up in the 8th spot. Remember, Lodovico Lorini got that drive-through, worked his way back to 11th, but with Stingray Robb, Oliver Askew, and Corey Enders all coming into pit lane, Lorini's going to end up in 9th. So a 1st and a 9th for RP Motorsports Racing, the new team. And Stingray Robb rounding out the top 10. Nikita Listoshkin, 11th. The 2 drivers who rolled the dice, Oliver Askew and Chris Wright. Rather, Oliver Askew and Corey Enders. Had we gone back to green, they would have worked their way to the front pretty quickly. Nonetheless, that caps it off here. The Pro Mazda Grand Prix of Alabama, race number 2. Harrison Scott with the win. Parker Thompson in second. 3rd spot, Carlos Cunha. That will be your podium as the drivers will work their way over there now. Again, we're set to go probably in about, I want to say about 8 minutes' time. We'll have our driver introductions for the Indy Lights Championship. Those drivers coming out for their second race in what will be very trying conditions. I think we're going to see a wet race for Indy Lights. That should be exciting to see who's quick because, you know, the one Indy Lights race we had last year in the rain, Aaron Telitz dominated at Watkins Glen. We'll see what happens there.
Us on a rainy and cold Sunday here in Birmingham, Alabama, as we are set to go racing despite the wet weather here at Barber Motorsports Park. My name is Nick Yeoman. Thanks for checking out the Advanced Auto Parts
ladies and gentlemen, you just saw a pretty exciting race in the Pro Mazda Championship.
Race number 2 of a double-header
young drivers
Steve
had to
Wittich from Trackside Online
very challenging conditions, changing conditions.
Steve,
of course,
just got word from race control. This is going to be declared a wet start, and
as we get set to go here, we have the Indy Lights cars down on pit lane.
I don't know what to expect.
I must say
from
this
these
to get things
drivers
underway.
Turn 1.
Drivers to your cars, please. All drivers to your cars.
It's fascinating to watch these guys get prepared for wet races. You've got to you've actually got a bunch of guys out there that have raced in the wet recently with this car. Last year,
pretty straightforward race for these guys.
The two
Mazda,
fastest
they weren't
drivers
sure what was going on.
starting
They
in
all, of course,
the
came out
fourth
with
and
those
fifth spot. That's Santi Arusha and
dry
Aaron
Cooper
Telitz
tires
from Velarde Racing.
The
They
was
sort of ran away with that race last year.
I was very impressed with the way those
Watkins
drivers
Glen
were able to handle
but
very
ahead of them,
challenging
you've got
conditions.
Pato
Some
O'Ward
great
and Victor
racing up front.
Franzoni on the
And
front row, and
win.
they're two guys that have not raced in the wet in this car. So you're right. Who knows what's going to happen at the start?
Yeah, a pair of rookies on the front row. We saw a very spirited qualifying session this morning as Pato O'Ward, the winner from yesterday. He's already got 2 wins in 3 races this season. He grabbed the pole position. Really nice effort from Victor Franzoni for Juncos Racing. Steve, he's kind of been lodged in that 4th position for all 3 races. Seems like slowly but surely he's starting to become a real threat in this series.
Yeah, and that's not a big surprise. He's a hard-working kid, and he's taken a little bit of time to get acclimated to the new car. And then I think it's starting to take for him. And he's another guy, he hasn't raced this car in the wet, but he's raced here in the wet in USF 2000 and been really, really good.
Starting lineup again, Pato O'Ward and Victor Franzoni on the front row. In row 2, it's Colton Herta and Santi Arrutia. In row 3, Aaron Telitz, who still has yet to complete a lap in race competition. We're hoping for better luck for him. He'll start on the inside of row number 3. To his outside was Dalton Kellett, the driver who spun and brought out a caution flag in yesterday's race. And in the final row, Ryan Norman, who was looking awful racy through the midway portion of the race, and Alfonso Celis, who didn't get to turn a lap in qualifying this morning after a spin. Dave, first, you were here this morning for qualifying. Quite a bit more wet down there on pit lane as we're set to go racing here at Barber.
Damp would be the best way I would describe the track conditions right now. 61-degree air temperature, and the track temperature is about the same. It is a steady mist here at what I would still describe as beautiful Barber Motorsports Park. Pato O'Ward has already slid into his number 27 machine, tightening up the gloves. Victor Franzoni tightening the belts in that number 23 for Juncos Racing, that Soul Red Mazda, and Colton Herta just now getting in his Yankee Blue number 98 machine, getting tightened up, ready to go for race number 2. To quote the classic comedy Caddyshack, Nick Yeoman, I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for quite some time. They do expect some more rain, perhaps even heavier rain later today, but right now, steady mist, and it's not that bad, at least for now.
Certainly it's in the area, but it does look like the bigger systems are going to avoid us and hopefully keep this race fairly dry. Again, declared a wet start, so all of these teams will start on those rain tires that Cooper Tire provides for these race teams, but certainly it's going to be interesting to see if this track ever dries out or if it continues to mist and the racetrack stays damp. Well, we mentioned Colton Herta. Yesterday, he grabbed the pole position, had to settle for a second-place finish. Today, he'll start third. But yesterday, we asked Colton Herta to take us on a lap around this 17-turn road course here in Birmingham, Alabama.
From Barber Motorsports Park,
here,
it's time for the Indy Lights, presented by Cooper Tires.
Going into turn 1, it's more dependent on your setup. So quick down change if you're going into 5th, and smash the throttle right before you compress, and just setting up for turn 2 and 3. And it's actually not really important to brake late here. You want to get the braking done early, hop off the brakes, roll the speed in. It's such a long corner. You don't have a lot of minimum speed. And then, get on the throttle nice and early because you do have a little bit of a straight and you're going uphill, so it's more important there. Going into turn 5 and 6, hard braking. You see the IndyCar guys this weekend having a lot of problems down there. It's very slippery this year compared to last year's. And getting good braking down there, rolling the minimum speed, getting on power early because again you're going uphill. And into one of my favorite parts, the 8 and 9 section of the track, the little chicane. Quick down change into 5th, rolling the speed a little bit on throttle before braking hard, smashing the curb, and really rolling the minimum speed through turn 9, getting the compression and getting on throttle early. Pretty simple through 10 and 11 flat out, and just have to clinch your butt there a little bit and hope it sticks. And then through 12 and 13, really want to set up for 13 more than 12, and just a slight breathe through 12, quick down change and right back on throttle through 13. You get a little light over the crest, and going down into 14, 15, 16, 17, it's really physical down there. It's a really long right-hander, and you're braking, so braking away from the corner a little bit going into 16, hop off the brakes, roll the speed in, get on the throttle early, and a slight lift going through 17, third or fourth gear, depending on car setup. And yeah, that's a lap around Barber.
Oh, the 8 drivers in those Mazdas pulling off of pit lane for the first time here in race conditions on a damp racetrack. As again, it's going to be Pato O'Ward who leads them to the green flag. A pair of parade laps before we go racing. Good opportunity to welcome in our turn announcers for this event. Michael Young, I know you got the rain jacket on. How's it feeling up there as you'll be calling the action heading down to turn 5?
Actually, not too bad, Nick. When I first got up here, it started to spit rain, but I think the big key for these drivers and what I think will be battling most of the race is the wind. As we did yesterday, it's coming out of the southeast, and then it'll kick out from the east every now and again, but it gets very gusty. There were points when there's no wind, and then out of nowhere, we get a 15 to 20 mile an hour wind, which will take a little of the air off those rear wings as they head down into Charlotte's Web. Still a beautiful vantage point here at Barber Motorsports Park. I will see them come out of the Alabama roller coaster down into turn number 5. Going to be a tough braking zone. Not only is it tough in the dry, it's going to be doubly tough in the wet. They then climb up the hill, and it's a mad dash down into turn number 7 where they come into the view of Jake Query.
Thank you, Michael. You are correct about that wind. The journey over here to the Barber Motorsports Park Vintage Museum, which is a fantastic facility. 650 of the 1,400 motorcycles in their collection are on a rotating display. Folks are moving their way through now, enjoying that and enjoying the dry conditions, although the precipitation has held off for now, but this track is indeed damp. There is no puddled or standing water in this long right-handed turn number 9 that is before me. It's a 90-foot elevation change. It works its way around a gorgeous waterfall with fans dotted along the hillside here, and they are still here with umbrellas and with tents to keep them dry. But Mother Nature is cooperating for right now. Also a tip of the cap, Nick Yeoman, to the fantastic volunteers running shuttles, doing everything they can to help out for all the race fans and media here. It is always a great stop at Barber Motorsports Park, and this day of racing will be no exception.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Jake, because it is first class. Not only the facilities here at Barber Motorsports Park, but the staff has been so helpful to us in terms of getting broadcast locations. But you're right, the volunteers helping everyone get to and from. This is a pretty big facility. Not easy to always get one point to another at these massive road courses, and the facilities and the staff here at Barber Motorsports Park have been absolutely fantastic. One more pace lap here at Birmingham before we get set to go racing. Rob Howden has joined us after getting the pre-race festivities underway down on the grid. Rob, I mentioned to Steve, man, I don't know what to expect here in the wet weather. You just saw a Pro Mazda race. The racetrack is damp. It's going to be really interesting here at the start.
We ran a majority of that Pro Mazda race at high speeds. We were on slick tires to start, and the track was pretty damp because there was a little bit of a light rain before they went out. This track seems like it's got a lot of grip, even though the rain is coming down. Now, I said I was out for the pre-race. It's a light sprinkle. It's not even really a rain right now. It feels just like a sprinkle. For me, I think this is the one opportunity that Aaron Telitz needs to be able to get his series season back going in the right direction. He's very good in the rain. They didn't have the outright speed to challenge the Andretti cars. This will be an opportunity for Aaron to show what he's got.
Pato O'Ward on the front row along with Victor Franzoni. Colton Herta starts third. Santi Urrutia is fourth. The aforementioned Aaron Telitz starts in the 5th position. I mentioned kind of right there in the hornet's nest. Hopefully he can avoid some early issues in this race. Dalton Kellett to his outside. Ryan Norman 7th and Alfonso Celis in 8th. Rob, let's talk a little bit about, before we go green flag, you just watched that Pro Mazda race, had the call of that. Tell us a little bit about who came away with the victory.
You know, very interesting race. Parker Thompson, who won yesterday, got out of the gate quickly, led down into turn number 5, but not surprising, the British driver who likes the wet, has lots of experience, Harrison Scott for RP Motorsport, able to take that lead. But really midway through, I believed that Harrison Scott was going to pull away. The car looked very good, but Andres Gutierrez from Team Pelfrey was a man on the move. He got by Parker Thompson, then was actually able to go by Harrison Scott and pulled a bit of a gap until the rain started to come, and he was the first guy coming through 8 and 9, and that car just shot right off turn number 8 through the gravel and ended up going back to Harrison Scott.
Yep, we got a chance to watch it up top here. It was awful entertaining. We're hoping for the best, not just with the IndyCar race later today, but with the Indy Lights Series race number 2. Out of turn 17, the 8 drivers, alignment looks pretty good. On those rain tires, we're going to see those rooster tails kick up as we are set to go racing here at Birmingham. They'll roar through the RPMs, and we are racing at Barber Motorsports Park. A fantastic jump by Pato O'Ward as he gets about a 6 or 7 car length advantage heading into turn number 2. Victor Franzoni holds down the second spot. There's still 2 by 2 behind him, though. But Michael Young, what a jump for Pato O'Ward.
Yes, indeed, Nick Yeoman. He hit the throttle and he broke away. Victor Franzoni, he's got about an 8 car length advantage as Brian Herta, now it's Colton Herta, starts to look to the outside of Santi Arrutia. Now Colton Herta takes a look to the inside of Arrutia, unable to make the pass. So as they make their way down to turn number 7, Pato O'Ward, Franzoni, Arrutia, then Colton Herta.
Urrutia is the big mover here at the start, making up one position. Pato O'Ward with that comfortable advantage, as Nick had talked about. Then it's Victor Franzoni. Then you go back to Urrutia, Colton Herta. Then things bunch up. Aaron Telitz has Dalton Kellett right there behind him. Kellett going to take a look into turn number 10.
Steve, on a wet start, the best way to avoid any chaos for Pato O'Ward is to get a great jump. That was impressive off the gate.
That was really impressive for someone who has not driven this car in the wet. He got on the gas just the right amount, didn't get too much wheel spin, and got away cleanly.
Rob's seeing a lot of guys slide around here in this opening lap.
Yeah, you can see the car is a little uneasy. The interesting thing that I want to watch here in the first couple of laps is what lines do they take. Obviously, there's not enough water down that they're taking that big, wide, traditional line. They're not running the outside of the track. That did actually help Aaron Telitz as he was able to stick with Dalton Kellett going through turns 2 and 3. He had that wide outside line, eventually able to get the pass done down into the hairpin turn number 5.
It was a great jump for Pato O'Ward. The lead, though, only 1.1 seconds, Michael, as he roars out of turn 4.
Yeah, Rob, and then for that, to comment on what Rob Houghton just said, Telitz and Kellett actually battled all the way down into turn number 7 and 8 before Telitz was able to finally get by his nemesis, Dalton Kellett. But he has broken away to about a 10 car length advantage, talking about Telitz 5th. So for Pato O'Ward, about an 8 car length advantage over Franzoni. Then Santi Arrutia will run 3rd. Right behind him, Colton Herta, and then the machine of Aaron Telitz. So good news for Telitz, finally able to get a complete lap in this 2018 campaign.
The skies are threatening in terms of the forecast, but the track right now is not. As a matter of fact, very little spray coming up. It is not necessarily dry, but there is no standing water here to vision, at least in that 9-10 combo. Everybody single file. Pato O'Ward continues with the lead.
Steve, but Michael mentioned it as Pato O'Ward. He hung the left rear tires nearly in the grass up the hill around the carousel. That's about as sideways as you want to get a car. I was going to mention Aaron Telitz, but boy, Rob, that was incredible as Pato O'Ward hustling here on lap number 2.
There's a couple of things when you drive in the rain that are things that you don't do, and that's you stay off the rumbles because that paint becomes unbelievably slippery. You saw him coming over the rise, drop the left rear onto the rumble, the painted rumble, that thing just shot out. And I'm waiting for the interview at the end of this race, depending on how he does, because he talked yesterday about how that win was not very tidy. He used the word tidy. This has not been a tidy start yet either, but we can, I think, expect that with the conditions.
I can tell you what, Victor Franzoni's doing a pretty decent job early on here keeping pace.
Well, these guys come up through the karting ranks and they get a lot of seat time in the dry and the wet. Now, depending on where you're from, you're going to see more wet. If you're in California like Colton Herta, you probably didn't do a lot of wet weather racing in karting. If you're in Brazil, if you're England, you're getting a lot of time behind the wheel in wet weather conditions. And they're able to learn that when they're young.
Steve, we briefly brought up to mention the story about Aaron Telitz finally completing a lap at race competition. This has been a miserable start to the season, and just see him out there finally turning some laps, that's got to be big for that young man, and especially for that team.
Yeah, it's got to make Brian Belardi pretty happy to see that car actually turn some laps. It wasn't all bad for Aaron. He got to test an IndyCar. But yeah, I know after yesterday's race, he was not in a great mood to talk. He was definitely down. But he's got a lot of good people around him, and especially Brian Belardi and John Brunner at the team that will keep pushing him up. And they both have shown a lot of confidence in him, and that helps a young driver when your team owner continues to stick with you.
One thing, Nick, I'm looking at here, we talked about the fact that Aaron Telitz was dominant last year at Watkins Glen in the finale in the rain. And this track very similar with some elevation changes, a lot of high-speed corners. It's not raining like it was there. He was dominant in that torrential rain. You look at lap times. Pato O'Ward last time by a 1:23.9. He's almost 3.5 seconds faster than Telitz. Yeah. I would have expected Telitz to have more pace, but he's right there with Arrutia. 1:27.9. Telitz 1:27.2. A 1:23.9 for O'Ward in these conditions. He's heads and tails faster than the rest of the drivers.
Yeah, he just took that gap from Franzoni that was right around a second and just extended it big time. Good battle shaping up right now for 4th It's really for third because Santi Urrutia is not getting away. Jake Query, it's a pair of red cars sandwiched in between that navy and white car of Colton Herta.
Yeah, Colton Herta's got Aaron Telitz right there on his rear bumper. Now, Herta's trying to reel in Santi Urrutia, but he's got about a 10-car length disadvantage. He only has a 2-car length advantage. Aaron Telitz is trying to stoke in on Colton Herta.
Yeah, he's about 4 or 5 car lengths behind Rob, and at times he's able to really get on the brakes and close in on the back of Colton Herta. This is a good battle for fourth spot.
Well, and again, Aaron's got a lot of experience. He's 26 years of age. He's done a lot of driving, whether it's karts, all the way up through the ranks, and we know he's a good wet weather driver. It's a long race as well. I don't think he's pushing that hard. I'm interested. I would love to be on the radio right now, hearing what they're saying to Pato. He's 2 seconds faster than Franzoni, and every time we see him on the screen, you see those hands whipping back and forth. He's really hustling the car. I don't think he has to. He can probably slow things down a bit. He's got a 6-second lead already. He does not need to throw this away by trying to overextend himself.
Well, and the tires might become an issue in that situation. You don't want to heat the tires out too much, and without too much rain on the track, that's a possibility. And that team's probably telling him, hey, you need to calm down, take it easy on these tires. They have to last 30 laps.
Michael, let's look at that battle for fourth, headed to Charlotte's Web.
Indeed, for Santi Urrutia, really the gap had closed when Colton Herta about 3 laps ago got it down to about a car length. It was Santi Urrutia that swung wide in turns 5 and 6 and allowed Herta to close back up. So about an 8-car length for Santi Urrutia, then Colton Herta, right behind him Aaron Telitz. But Jake Query still about a 5-car length advantage for Herta for that 4th position.
The trick in turn number 9, which is a long spiraling right-handed turn, is to the inside of that loop there is a concrete strip. Now, typically that wouldn't be a big issue, but when you get it moist, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit icy. That's causing everybody to kind of jump out to the middle line through turn number 9. Everybody did it last time. By still clean and single file in through turn number 11.
And Rob, what I've noticed here is we're 4.5, 5 laps into this race. There's a lot of spots on this racetrack that these drivers are breaking these cars loose that certainly you wouldn't see under the dry conditions. Let's hear from one of the car owners standing by with Dave First on pit lane.
Yeah, among those interested in the start, Michael Andretti, of course, of Andretti Autosport. Tell me about the start by Pato O'Ward. This could be tricky for the most veteran of IndyCar drivers, let alone someone somewhat new to the series.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough conditions, but he's doing a good job. But we're trying to slow him down a little bit. I think he's on the edge a little bit, so hopefully he just keeps it calm. And he's already got like an 8-second lead, so he just has to hopefully just bring it home.
I was going to say, is it too good at this point?
Yeah, you hold your breath until the end of the race with these conditions.
How do you tell a race car driver to slow down on a racetrack?
You don't really tell him to slow down, but to drive within himself. Don't be hanging it out.
How impressed are you, all told, the start that he's had here in 2018?
Yeah, the kid's really impressive from the first time he sat in our car. He's been really quick and, on pace with Colton, who we really rate highly. So, we have 2 really good guys here.
I was going to say, between the 2, this should be a heck of a campaign here in 2018 to watch him work it out.
It's going to be fun.
Have fun today. Yep, he's keeping a close eye and maybe telling Pato O'Ward just to back it up just a skosh out there.
Oh, Dave, I don't know if you and Michael could see what we just saw up here because, Rob, he certainly did back it down the previous lap when he and Victor Franzoni ran minute 24 laps, which is certainly a little bit slower. But we also just saw Pato O'Ward put all 4 tires off the racetrack.
Everybody will tell you that turn 10 and 11 is that high commitment corner where you got to believe in the car, making that dart to the right, to the left. He came through, went way off the racetrack, over the rumbles, essentially onto that little exit area that they give you, used up all the road. I'll tell you, Steve, you and I see this all the time in these young drivers. Once you've won some races, when you have that confidence, you start that momentum, you just think you can do anything on the racetrack. And I think that's what Pato's doing right now. He's hustling this car around and getting himself into some positions he probably doesn't need to.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch him this year. He spent a year in sports cars and won a lot of races, and he definitely came into the season with a ton of confidence. Oh, here we go.
Oh, how about Michael Young? How about the move by Colton Herta into turn 5?
Boy, he outbroke Santi Urrutia deep into turn number 5, wove that machine down. Colton Herta around Santi Urrutia for 3rd place. Jake, he's already checked out 5 car lengths.
And now what he's got to try to do is reel in those front 2, which is going to be a challenge. They're already in through turn number 12, but suddenly Santi Urrutia's got some pressure from Aaron Telitz, who is right on his heels. As a matter of fact, Telitz looked like he might be able to get it through turn number 9, but then Urrutia getting a little bit of an advantage on the straight.
Looked like Ryan Norman went off the racetrack as well as he fell to the 8th spot. But Aaron Telitz is the one that is now on the move as he is closing in, Rob, on Santi Urrutia for Ford.
I'll tell you, there's a couple of really good battles. You're right. We're looking at lap times now. Franzoni actually quicker than the leader Pato O'Ward by about a half a second last time by. The Bilardi drivers turning 127. Fairly similar lap times, but again, Telitz will start winding things up. Interesting to see this battle coming up front. We may see a fight. Maybe Pato does want to get further away. He's only 4.7 back now as Franzoni's really kind of getting a feel for it now.
Tell you what, after Colton Herta made that pass of Santi Urrutia, he is checked out, and now, Michael, the battle is for fourth between the two Bilardi Auto Racing teammates.
And you know that Aaron Telitz will want to make up as many spots as he can and try to keep himself in a championship battle after that extremely rough start that he's had. Santi Urrutia, Rooster Tails coming off the rear of that car. Now Aaron Telitz starts to look to the inside. Trying to outbreak Santi Urrutia was Telitz for that fourth position. Urrutia back on the throttle, only gapping him about 3 car lengths this time. Good battle for fourth position.
And Colton Herta has been able to get himself some breathing room from this battle. He'd rather not have it too close in his rearview mirror, but if it got to that point, he'd have a pretty good view of a very good battle. Urrutia with Telitz just behind him. And once again, Telitz appears to be a little bit better in that long, sweeping right-handed turn number 9. But once they get down to the straight, Urrutia able to get through that gearbox and get himself that breathing room back.
And, Steve, these have to be the moments where if you're a car owner like Brian Bilardi, you put your hands over your eyes because you can't watch.
Oh, I can only imagine what Brian's thinking right now with the season they've had to start things off. I was actually hanging out in their garage area, but right before the race, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts that those two drivers or those two engineers were kind of looking what each other were doing and deciding what they were going to do. And I think they probably put different setups on the car is kind of just standing there and observing. They kind of look like they were going to go a little bit different direction, and it'll be interesting to see. It looks like right now that Ken Boyer with Aaron Telitz has done the right thing.
Aaron Telitz has been taking the wide way around, but Michael Young, he is right there, 2 or 3 car lengths back up the hill.
To give you a perspective, Pato O'Ward is already in turn number 7 before we see Herta in turn number 3. There goes Aaron Telitz. Nice move around Santi Urrutia. Outbroke him down into Charlotte's Web. Tiptoed his way back up the hill. Kept control of that car. Boy, Aaron Telitz on a mission today. Just passed his teammate for 4th.
It seems as though, especially in the turn areas, is where Urrutia all of a sudden just kind of feels that car perhaps go away from him a little bit. That allowed Telitz to get past him. Those two have a sizable gap back before you get to Dalton Kellett, and then behind Dalton Kellett you have Celis running well behind him, Ryan Norman at the back of the field.
Rob, what's it tell you about Santi Urrutia's car, maybe the setup on that thing, that he's not able to drive in as deep as Colton Herta and Aaron Telitz have made fairly routine easy passes down into 5?
You know, anytime you're going to a race like this, you're putting that setup on to try to just drastically improve overall grip in terms of your mechanical setup on the car. And when you can see him even as he tries to roll that power down, the rear end starts to kick out on him. He did it coming out of 16. I just think he's having trouble getting the power down right now.
So with 9 laps in the books here at Barber Motorsports Park, 21 to go, it's all Pato O'Ward with a 5.7 second lead over Victor Franzoni. Those two, though, in their own area code, because they have flat checked out on the rest of the field. It's a good 24 seconds back to Colton Herta, who has moved into the 3rd spot. Aaron Telitz, as we just talked about, past Santi Urrutia to jump into 4th. Urrutia has been kicked back to 5th. Dalton Kellett runs in the 6th spot. Alfonso Celis, who's making his debut Indy Lights weekend here at Birmingham, is running the 7th spot. And Ryan Norman struggling out there on the wet racetrack as he runs in 8th. And Rob, again, pretty impressive how Pato O'Ward and Victor Franzoni, a pair of rookies in this series, not a lot of starts in terms of with this Indy Lights car, they flat left the rest of this field.
You know, watching the video we're seeing of Pato O'Ward, I think he's settled in. He's turning these nice high 124s, and when you can watch him, he's wearing white gloves, so you can kind of see it. He's getting into the corner, he's making that steering input and letting the car plow. He's got a little bit of the push in the car, which is what you want in the wet. You don't want a car that has oversteer, then you're going to see the thing snap on you. You want to have that bit of understeer, and he's just setting the car, plowing it through, and then it's gripping as it comes out of the corner. You're not seeing his hands bounce around anymore. I know he's finally getting comfortable with the setup they have. 25 flat last time by.
Yeah.
Every lap within a couple of tenths of a second.
Yeah, not losing a whole lot time-wise. Victor Franzoni is doing a nice job, as we mentioned, of keeping pace, but nobody's had anything for Pato O'Ward so far My name's Nick Yeoman. Rob Howden joins us here in the booth. This is the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. Steve Wittich from Trackside Online joins us as well. And Steve, talk to us a little bit about Trackside Online. You guys provide a great service for those who are not only just fans of the Verizon IndyCar Series, but the Mazda Road to Indy as well.
Yeah, we've been coming to the track for over 20 years now, and right now it's Patrick Steffen and myself who own the company, and we've got some other writers that come on board, Tony DeZino, Bruce Martin, a few others that will help us out on a race weekend. And, we cover the Verizon IndyCar Series and then the Road to Indy, and we do it a little bit differently. We're probably more for the hardcore fan than we are for the casual IndyCar fan, but you can get a subscription for the IndyCar service, and it's $22, and we'll go back to Nick here.
I was going to say, we got a pretty good battle shaping up, Rob. It's towards the back of the field, but how about this rookie driver, Alfonso Celis, pressuring Dalton Kellett for sixth?
I think he's just, again, starting to get more and more comfortable with the car. The tires are so different. The brakes are different. We've discussed already today how he's dealing with the turbo as well. He ran that naturally aspirated V8 in the World Series V8. One thing I picked up on, I think we saw it maybe about 30 seconds ago, was Pato O'Ward is starting to search the racetrack for some wet track. Coming down the front straightaway, he's dove to the inside of the track. We're not seeing a lot of rain here on the booth, on the window of the booth. Maybe the dry line's starting to pick up a little bit, and he's been pushing those tires. He's just trying to cool them down, I think.
It's Award, Franzoni, Herta, Tielitz, and Urrutia, the top five. At battle for sixth, though, Michael Young, just a couple car lengths separating Dalton Kellett and Alfonso Celis.
Yeah, we noticed that Pato O'Ward was searching for that rain, Rob, and Dalton Kellett still has a pretty good advantage over Celis, that he's come down into turn number 5. Celis starting to work his way to the outside, trying to get an outside look on Dalton Kellett. Not really in position to make any type of attack at this point. I think just trying to get a feel for the car and allowing himself an opportunity, if one poses itself, to get around Kellett.
I think that's a really good call, Michael, because Celis, give him credit. This is, of course, a youngster who is just kind of getting acclimated to these particular cars. He got a little bit loose that time by at the exit of turn number 9, but he gave Dalton Kellett the last circuit pass all that he wanted. And for a young guy who's just trying to figure out these cars, then you throw in the fact, figure out these cars in tricky conditions. Pretty impressive what he was able to do the last time by to give Dalton Kellett every look on the racetrack.
And Rob, you know what, Anders Krohn and I talked a little bit about this qualifying earlier this morning. I've always felt like that's the biggest challenge for these guys, not necessarily the cars, but learning these racetracks because they're all so different.
And you'll talk to some of the drivers who have been in Europe, like Harrison Scott, who did so well at Pro Mazda today. He said, finally, I did the street race at St. Petersburg. I've never done a street race before. At least when I come to Barber Motorsports Park, it kind of reminds me of Brands Hatch or Oulton Park, a track that he's run on before. But you're right, that's one of the biggest things for the drivers, the international pilots who haven't run the entire road to Indy. When they just jump into Indy Lights, it's figuring out Barber, figuring out Mid-Ohio and Road America, different racetracks.
Boy, Alfonso Celis jumped on the throttle to the Alabama roller coaster. They nearly made contact, Michael, as Kellett streaks away by a couple car lengths.
Kellett looks to the inside, or dives to the inside, I should say, and Celis looks to the outside. Now Celis trying to look back to the inside, not really within striking distance, but I noticed as they came down the front straightaway, Jake Query, Celis was tucked so tight underneath Kellett, almost clear spray for him, not a very good visible line.
And now he runs off, Michael, pardon me there, but he came up on Kellett, and I think he had to check up the brakes. Boy, he really saved it, went through the grass, got lucky that he did not get into that gravel area, and so all of a sudden, just when he was able to make that move, Celis has to check it up. Nice job of saving it. Sorry to jump on you there, Michael, but he went off, found his way right back on track just as soon as he had gone off.
And Steve, you could see the body language in that cockpit, the hands, the way that car's rocking about. Alfonso Celis is pushing out here.
He really is pushing hard. He's obviously, as Rob said, he's getting more comfortable with the car. And, he spent a lot of time racing in Europe. Racing in the rain, not something new for him at all. Getting used to a new car in the rain, yeah, for sure. But once he gets it figured out, it's the same. You have the same habits. You have the same way you drive the car. You just kind of need to figure out your footwork and your handwork to get it right. And that's it'll be interesting to see how much longer it takes him to do that.
Guys, what I really like is the fact that he's trying different lines as well. You can see that he was trying an outside-inside line. He's doing whatever he can, or was doing whatever he could to get by Dalton Kellett. Tried that outside line in 5 with a tighter exit point. Just doing anything he can to try to find some grip somewhere on the racetrack.
And Michael, that's allowed Ryan Norman to creep into the back of that battle.
Yeah, indeed. Dalton Kellett really woes her down at the exit of turn number 6. Ryan Norman nearly plowed into the back of Celis as they exited turn number 6. Ryan Norman had to check it out a little bit. That's gapped all the cars, Jake Query, but a nice little lap there for Celis and Norman.
Norman is trying to keep his eye there on Celis, and then like you mentioned, Celis has the same gap in front of him to Dalton Kellett. Nobody able to make up any ground here. A little bit of water starting to spray up as they exit turn number 9.
Steve, I jumped over you there when we got interesting there on the racetrack. Tell us a little bit more, though, about Trackside Online and most importantly, how folks can subscribe to the great service you guys provide.
You can go to tracksideonline.com, and there's a little button on the top left that says subscribe, and we'd love to have you. And if you're a Road to Indy fan, like I obviously am, you can go to tsoladder.com, and you can read all those stories for free. And we must thank our friends at Cooper Tire for helping us out there. They came on as a presenting sponsor this year and help us get to a few more races in person. And we think it's important to be here in person to tell all the kids' stories.
You know, Nick, as a guy that works in the media like we do, whether it's play-by-play, you're always running around trying to do different events, different categories that I cover, of course, on PA. It's always nice to get that email coming in. That's the email service that you have, Steve, that all the information comes and you tap that. I just love having it right there on my phone. For any time I'm doing a race, always going to Trackside Online.
Here comes Ryan Norman, Michael Young.
Norman looks to the inside, then the outside. And there goes Celis. Went too deep into turn number 5, now caught himself up into the gravel, able to keep it under control, but that pressure from Ryan Norman forces Alfonso Celis in the runoff, so move Ryan Norman up to 6.
Things are getting pretty slick in that 8-9 combo because you can see some of those rear wings starting to step out just a little bit. Now, Celis, when he went off last time by entering turn number 9, and again he does it, just waits a little too late to take that right-hander. He now is at the bottom of that 90-foot elevation change. I'm not certain when he went off last time by it didn't disrupt the balance of that race car a little bit because he seems to have a tiger by the tail at this point.
Rob, walk us through what you kind of saw there for Alfonso Celis, who has a fast race car. He's been pushing hard there in turn 5.
Again, he's just trying every opportunity. He's trying outside, he's trying inside. That time was more inside move, just didn't get woed up enough. And as we said, this track continues to change. We're seeing some of the in-car camera. We're seeing the water on that camera lens, so the rain still is coming down. It's going to continue to change. If he hasn't run that inside line for a couple laps, it's going to keep getting more wet, and he may be starting to get a little bit more anxious trying to get by Dalton.
We've reached the halfway point of this race, and it is still all Pato O'Ward with a 6.1 second advantage over Victor Franzoni. Then another 30 seconds back to Colton Herta, who runs in third. Aaron Telitz has the 4th spot locked down. Tell you what, Santi Urrutia is quickly falling into the grasp of Dalton Kellett and Ryan Norman as those drivers make their way up and out of turn number 5. That's probably the best battle on the racetrack. Urrutia has about 10 car lengths on Kellett, and then Jake about another 6 to Dalton Kellett as this is the battle for the final spot in the top 5.
Dalton Kellett has already had himself more than an active day. He had the battles with Celis. Now all of a sudden Ryan Norman's going to close in as they take that sweeping right-hander, and he was able to get in to about 10 yards or so of Dalton Kellett. But again, as we often see, once they get to the bottom of that hill, Nick, then whoever is in the lead is able to earlier get that acceleration. That allows Dalton Kellett to get himself back some breathing room.
And Steve, this is kind of something we've seen all season long in the Indy Lights series. Even if someone goes out and dominates like Pato O'Ward, there are a lot of good battles at the back of the pack. And Ryan Norman's kind of been one of those guys that we've seen mix it up. I think he's a little bit more comfortable in that car here in year 2.
Yeah, he really is. I've talked to him a couple times this season, and he's definitely feeling a lot more confidence in his abilities with the car. He sort of started to come on late in the season last year, and you'd look at his lap times, and he's maybe struggling qualifying, but race pace, he was right there with everybody else, and he's sort of been the same way a bit this year. He's kind of, the qualifying has been a little bit better, but the race pace has always been really strong, and I think we'll get to some tracks where he really excels at it.
And Michael, he is pressuring his teammate for that 6th spot.
Indeed, I misspoke. Ryan Norman, I said move to 6. He's trying to get it now. Goes to the inside of his teammate Dalton Kellett, who currently owns that 6th position. Kellett back on the throttle, able now to gap about 5 positions as Pato O'Ward comes by the start-finish line. Really diving deep into the wet portion of this track, and I've noticed as these laps have continually clicked off that they are slowly starting to work various portions of this track, especially down in turn 5, guys. I saw Pato O'Ward nearly go all the way to the outside of where the grass is nearly meets the track, just trying to find some wet racing surface because it's all but stopped raining, and it's not really that windy at all either.
And I'll tell you what, Jake, as the leader, Pato O'Ward makes his way towards you, I would assume there's not as much searching at the top of the hill because that downward spiral seems like that's a part of the racetrack you have to go one groove.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And again, you want to make sure, and O'Ward does it just then. Again, at the inside of the turn, there is a cement strip there, just kind of a rumble strip, which wouldn't normally be a problem. As a matter of fact, in dry conditions, you can kind of skirt over it a little bit, but it becomes slicker than does the asphalt when it's actually wet. So everybody's avoiding that. That's keeping that line you're talking about, Nick, more to the center of the racetrack at the actual apex of that turn.
Just a couple car lengths separating Ryan Norman and Dalton Kellett in that battle for sixth, Michael.
Indeed, Ryan Norman trying to get around his teammate. That battle for sixth last time by about 3 car lengths. This time by Ryan Norman drives it even deeper into turn number 5. Able to get on the throttle a little bit quicker, but the gap between Urrutia, Kellett, and Ryan Norman about the same. 6 car lengths between all 3.
Taking a look at it now, Kellett and then again in front of him. That is the number 5 machine of Santi Urrutia. Kellett is not able to make the move. Ryan Norman's done a nice job, Nick, of keeping them in view. Then a sizable gap back before you get to Celis, who's a little bit slower as he works his way down through that turn number 9.
And I'll tell you what, Rob Houghton, I've been impressed with all 8 of these drivers on a wet racetrack. Now that it's starting to dry with these guys searching for a racing line and for a little moisture, these young drivers have done a nice job through 17, 18 laps of, for the most part, keeping these race cars on the track.
I know that the wet weather really isn't ideal for the fans that are coming out to enjoy the day. For those of us purists who want to see these young drivers develop, I think it's the greatest thing. These kids need to have an opportunity to run in these kind of conditions. They're going to do it in the Verizon IndyCar Series. They might as well hone and perfect their skills here in Indy Lights and Pro Mazda, whatever it may be. I'm like you. I'm very impressed. We haven't seen a lot of spins, a lot of major mistakes. You're seeing guys actually really hustle these cars around. No one's backing it down.
Steve, you're a longtime motorsports fan as well. I mean, this is a lot of fun to see these young guys develop.
It's fantastic to see these drivers develop. And it's not just, it's learning how to run in the rain, but Pato O'Ward, you go back to St. Pete, had a big lead, threw it away. Came back yesterday and handled the pressure with Colton Herta right on his tail. I flat out asked him about, hey, did that? And we've got someone off in turn 5. Michael?
Yes, indeed. Celis has gone off again. Drove away deep into turn number 5, just trying to get that rhythm again and carry a lot of speed through 5 and 6. Dove it down in too deep, ended up in the gravel trap. But unlike what we've seen in some of the other series, he's able to drive it out again. So for the second time, Celis has drove it in and saved himself from getting stuck in the gravel.
Steve, go ahead and finish your point there.
So it's interesting to talking to Pato about what happened in St. Pete, and he flat out admits he made a mistake, and he was absolutely embarrassed for him and his team, and he said he apologized a lot, and he said even his family, he had to apologize to them because they all texted. He said he had 100 texts after the race at St. Pete, like, what did you do? And that's a great learning experience for these kids because the pressure is only going to increase as they move up to the Verizon IndyCar Series.
Boy, I'll tell you what a great battle we've got for 5th, 6th, and 7th. As Santi Urrutia, so used to being up front, but his car just simply has not handled these wet conditions very well. And Michael, he's got 2 very hungry Andretti Autosport drivers that would love to grab a top 5 here in Barber.
And I think to the past, Santi Urrutia drives very aggressively. He allowed the others to pass him, but I don't think he's going to give up this 5th position very easily. He dives deep into turn number 5. Then it's Kellett, then it's Norman. Kellett able to get back on the throttle. This drops Norman back about 15 car lengths, but Kellett with a great exit out of turn number 6. He's on the charge with Santi Urrutia.
Tell you what, Aaron Telis, Urrutia's teammate, got a little bit loose that time through turn number 9. He was able to keep control of it. Kellett now trying to work in on Urrutia. Once again has about a, we'll call it 15-yard disadvantage to try to make up, but he's not able to gain any ground as they move through turn number 10.
Rob, this is shaping pretty good with 10 laps to go here, this final step of the top 5 for these drivers to battle it out.
Dalton had an issue, a couple issues in St. Petersburg. He had an issue yesterday with the spin at the start of the race. He would love to have a good one here. And catching up and passing Santi Urrutia would be something that would make him feel a little surge of confidence, which I think he needs now. Santi, of course, has won here before 2 years ago. with Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. He was second last year in the rain at Watkins Glen. I'm actually very surprised by his lack of pace.
Yeah, do you think, you just chalk it up to maybe a setup?
I think so. There's obviously something wrong. They haven't nailed it. Even Telitz, 128 flat last time by. Urrutia, 127.6. You got Award, Franzoni, and Herta all down in the 25s and 26s. That's not just driver. That means they just missed something. There's something they're missing on this setup.
Santi Urrutia is a tough guy to pass, Michael Young, but Dalton Kellett's going to try to do it here in the closing stages of this race.
Indeed, Santi Urrutia swings way to the outside, trying to get some wet on those Cooper tires. That allows Dalton Kellett to close back in. It allows Kellett another great exit out of turn number 6. The gap was 6 car lengths. Now it's down to 3 car lengths. That battle for 5th continues to heat up.
Got to give credit to Dalton Kellett and just this Mazda Road to Indy, because this is what this Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires is designed to do. Give a young driver an opportunity to race by race, week by week, and season by season, put himself in position now to be able to have these kinds of battles. No disrespect, Nick, to Dalton Kellett, but the way he's driving today and challenging today, I don't know we would have seen that a year ago, but that's exactly what this series is designed to do.
Yeah, and Steve, we've seen a lot of great stories over the years of drivers that have made those mistakes and have struggled early on the Mazda Road to Indy, that after a couple years of seasoning, they really turn into great race car drivers.
Yeah, I think someone that's making his Verizon IndyCar Series debut this year and won the championship last year, Kyle Kaiser's a great example of that. He won some races in Pro Mazda, and he moved up to Indy Lights, and that first season, he hit a lot of things. I remember maybe the first 3 or 4 races of this season, he hit his competitors, and he did not make any friends, but he kept working on his craft and kept getting better. And, he listened to the advice he got from other drivers and from his team owners, and he continued to get better, and he's been impressive in his IndyCar start so far. He's been on pace, and with the new team, that's an impressive thing to do.
And Rob, one that we know pretty well, Zach Veach. How about the job he did at Long Beach just 1 week ago, coming home with a 4th place finish? Another graduate who has put in the time in the Mazda Road to Indy.
We get a chance to see those drivers come up through the ranks and watch what they do. Pato Ward really hanging out there again. Again, drops another wheel as we try to talk about Zach Veach, but we've watched Zach go through the ups and downs, make the mistakes, but then come back and win races. Again, amazing at Long Beach. And to do what he did, battling food poisoning and coming back, you just see some of these drivers that commit to it. Zach's a driver who has totally committed to the Verizon IndyCar Series, health-wise, fitness-wise, the whole social media side, the marketing side. I love watching Zach do this because he's another great example for these young drivers to be able to pattern their careers up.
Yeah, you mentioned the bugs, Steve. There's a couple drivers in the IndyCar paddock. There's something going around, and so we've got a few guys a little under the weather this weekend.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see what's going on over there. It's very, very interesting how they've been, and it seems to be different things. Like I know Zachary Clement-DeMello wasn't feeling well. Spencer Piggott wasn't feeling well. Tony Kanaan wasn't feeling well. It's interesting time of the year to get sick, but it's not. It makes it awfully tough, especially when you have to be in that car for 2 hours a second.
Just 8 laps to go here at Barber Motorsports Park. It's Pato O'Ward leading Victor Franzoni by 5.4 seconds. Colton Herta runs in 3rd. Aaron Telitz is 4th, and Santi Urrutia is 5th. Dave, first, we don't get to see these Cooper rain tires used very often, but they seem to be performing pretty well here at Barber Motorsports Park this Sunday.
I've been amazed by the performance, so I'm like, let's talk to the guys from Cooper Tires, and Daniel Stanton is an engineer with these guys, and here's the thing. These are the tires we never want to see on the track, but occasionally we do. The performance, I think, has been outstanding today.
It's been good, yeah. It helps that there's not been a dry line up here yet. So the conditions have remained quite consistent. You can see a few of the guys just coming down the main straight, just trying to cool the tyres down. Important to keep them in the temperature window, otherwise you see higher degradation and a performance loss there. But so far, so good. Yeah.
It's been fun to watch these guys mix it up a little bit. You're saying there might be a new rain tire in its development, and by the time maybe we hit Indianapolis, it might be out?
That's the plan. Over the last couple of years, we've not seen an awful lot of wet running. But we've actually got a new tyre, hopefully introduce it for Indianapolis GP. But who's to say we're going to see wet weather there?
For an engineer, you've got to like this though, right?
I do, yeah, it's interesting. We work, especially back in Europe, do a lot of work on wet compounds. So, yeah, it's interesting. We don't get to see it too much out here. And it's a leveler when it comes to racing as well, so it's good.
Good show. Enjoy the rest of it. Thank you so much. Daniel Stanton, an engineer for Cooper Tires. They've done a tremendous job here in a tremendous race at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yeah, great stuff, Dave. First, really appreciate it. Let's look back in on that battle for fifth. Santi Urrutia, about 3 or 4 car lengths over Dalton Kellett, and about 6 or 7 more back to Ryan Norman, Jake, as they make their way down to the museum.
Yeah, those three have not been able to get away from each other at all, although those front two, that being Urrutia and Kellett, have gotten themselves a little bit of distance from Norman. But Norman seems a little faster on that turn. That allows him to close up just a little bit. Those front two now getting away from him through turn number 11.
Rob, to put a bow on that interview Dave did with the folks from Cooper Tires, their commitment to this series, the Mazda Road to Indy, it's just as impressive as Mazda's, because everybody's running on Cooper Tires in those lower rungs as well.
You know, they're such a supportive organization. The whole company, their social media activation, they do a lot to promote the Mazda Road to Indy, not just providing us with great product to run on. They have the hashtag program, and they really work with the young drivers to understand the reach of social media. You'll see a lot of the contests. You see the drivers with the hashtag Team Cooper Tire or hashtag MRTI. It really tries to activate them to understand that they can connect with their own sponsors as well, their own media, their own fans. And they're developing fans, which is the great thing. And again, then they extend their reach as well to companies like TSO and TSO Ladder, supporting them. Cooper Tire they just do everything in terms of supporting the sport that we love, and again, this development ladder.
Are they the ones that broke out the trading cards a year or two ago? It was, wasn't it? I got a kick out of that. I thought that was pretty neat.
You know what? As a guy that used to collect hockey cards, I'm a kid. I'm sure you probably had baseball cards. That was awesome to have. I know the drivers thought it was fantastic as well. You had to get different packs and try to be able to get the whole collection together. They do a lot of things that are very, very unique in terms of trying to develop the knowledge, the awareness of the sport here in all 3 rungs of the Mazda Road to Indy.
And I think I saw that Borg Warner on the IndyCar side was doing something kind of taken from that idea for the Indy 500, Steve. I mean, that's a cool keepsake. Everyone can go through the paddock and get those hero cards and get them autographed. That's always special as well, but that type of collector's type thing, I know that the nerds like the 3 of us, we get a kick out of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's fantastic for, if there's a kid here for one race and, they have those cards, they're going to continue to look at those cards 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. And it's just awareness of the Mazda Road to Indy and IndyCar. And it's awareness that makes the sport, it helps the sport grow. It's that activation that Cooper has continued to do and Mazda has continued to do with these young kids. That it teaches them what they need to know on the business side of racing. They obviously have to be good on track, but we all know now that the business side of it is just as important.
5 laps to go here at Barber Motorsports Park. Best battle on the racetrack continues, Michael Young, to be that great battle for the 5th spot.
Indeed, Santi Urrutia now exits the Alabama roller coaster down into turn number 5. Dalton Kellett 3 car lengths back, brakes and looks to the outside of Santi Urrutia. So does Ryan Norman to the outside of Dalton Kellett. So Dalton Kellett now exits turn number 6. He's able to close back in on the rear wing of Santi Urrutia. About a 3 car length gap between Santi Urrutia and Dalton Kellett. Guys, just a note here, Pato O'Ward is nearly got to the rear wing of Alfonso Celis. About 2-3 seconds tops, but it's been quite a day for Pato O'Ward.
Yeah, he has done a fantastic job. As you mentioned, he is not too far away from getting into lap traffic. And with 8 cars here at Barber Motorsports Park, that is flat getting around this place. His lead, Rob Howden, continues to be right around 5 to 7 seconds. It's been like that for the last 20 laps. Doesn't appear like he's in a position where he needs to push too hard here in the final 4 laps.
My thing is, what does this do for his confidence?
Sure.
Coming in here, you said he made that mistake. He wins race number 1.
He's so close to being 4 for 4 this year.
I know.
Mean, it's incredible.
And it's a confidence level for him. There's that swagger he's got that he really believes in the car. He believes in the team. They're all kind of rallying around him. He and Colton obviously going to be in the battle for the championship. He put Franzoni in there. Urrutia, of course, left St. Petersburg with the title. For another win here for Pato. 1 in the dry, 1 in the wet. Man, the confidence he's going to have rolling into the IndyCar Grand Prix in early May at IMS is going to be massive.
O'Ward just streaked across the start-finish line. Just 3 laps to go. He is your leader by 6.6 seconds over Victor Franzoni, who looks poised for his first career podium. That'll be a big day for him. Colton Herter runs 3rd. Aaron Telitz runs 4th. Then you've got Santi Urrutia, who runs 5th. Dalton Kellett and Ryan Norman all over the rear wing. But, Jake Berry, where did those rooster tails go here around Barber Motorsports Park?
It's interesting because the rooster tails down at the bottom of this long turn number 9. That's where they finally start. But to your point, Nick, they've really dissipated in the last, let's say, 15 laps or so. I'm not going to say this track is dry, but it certainly is not to the point of any sort of an accumulated moisture like we had at the beginning of this race. The key here, Nick, is to make sure that that tries to hold form through the course of the afternoon of racing.
And, Rob, you can visually tell. I mean, there are parts of this racetrack that Pato O'Ward is negotiating right now where it is certainly a lighter shade of gray than we saw just 15, 20 minutes ago.
We're not seeing the lap times drop, but indeed, it's definitely not near as wet as it was. The rooster tails aren't there, and that's why they're searching for the wet on the racetrack. The thing about a wet weather tire, obviously it's treaded, so there's a lot less surface area. It's a much softer compound, and we're still talking about up to 450 horsepower. Once they really start getting to roll into the throttle, those tires get used up a ton. That's why these guys are doing whatever they can to find some water and to cool those tires down.
2 to go as the leader streaks across the line. Michael Young, that battle for 5th continues to be a good one.
Even a better one for 6. Now Ryan Norman trying to take advantage of his teammate braking a little bit earlier into turn number 5. The exit for the 3 cars, Urrutia, Kellett, and Norman out of turn number 6. The advantage for Santi Urrutia about 7 car lengths, but a good battle coming your way, Jake Query.
Yep, and again, that distance stays the same, but Kellett starts to get right on his rear, and that allows Ryan Norman to get there as well. These 3, Nick, are literally the proverbial throw a blanket between them. Norman gaps back just a little bit entering turn number 10, but still close for all 3 of them.
Rob, they seem so evenly paced because while they run separated by 2 or 3 car lengths, neither of those drivers trailing. Kellett and looking for 5th and Norman looking for 6th are able to get close enough to make a pass. This is about as close as Dalton Kellett's been here, though, through the carousel.
It seems to me for Dalton, the best he has is he get, I think, a little more forward bite coming out of the corners. He's a lot quicker coming out of turn number 5 when they come out of Charlotte's Web up to 6 and 7. He is closing up here now. If he can hold on to this and then get that good run out of turn number 5, as he's got almost every lap on Santi Urrutia, we could see a pass down into 7 and 8.
And further behind them, really not too far at all, the number 27 machine of Pato O'Ward is going to see the white flag as he's on his final lap around this racetrack. Michael, let's look in once again, though, at that battle for 5th.
Indeed, they come out of the Alabama roller coaster. The gap the same as it was last time by, but this time Santi Urrutia has a little bit better breathing room, about 3 car lengths over Dalton Kellett, then another 3 car lengths to Ryan Norman. And for Pato O'Ward, that young man still filled with adrenaline about 2 hours after the race yesterday. What will he be like today? Could it be 3 for 4? Pato O'Ward out of 5 for the final time.
Pato O'Ward says that aside from racing, boxing is his favorite sport, and he absolutely has been a heavyweight this weekend. A superlative effort for Pato O'Ward on a challenging morning in terms of the conditions. He has not put a wheel in the wrong spot at all. Works his way now through turn number 9, gets that left side to the outside of the racetrack, then sweeps back down to the middle. Here comes Pato O'Ward, Nick, out of turn number 11.
No doubt, Rob Houghton, he has delivered the old technical knockout, not only on his 7 competitors, but on this racetrack here in Birmingham.
You know what? He's the heavyweight right now, no doubt about it. As Jake had said, you did never, as a competitor, want another driver in your series to get on a hot run like this. Remember, he did this almost exactly the same in Pro Mazda. He split the wins with Aaron Telitz at ram number 1, then he went on a run of 7 race wins in Pro Mazda. This guy's got it all right now.
Championship favorite defined, no doubt about it. At a turn 17, twin checkered flags, Pato O'Ward sweeps the weekend here in Birmingham as he has won 3 of 4 races to start the season. Great second place finish for Victor Franzoni as he strikes across the line. Michael Young on this final lap. Any change in that battle for 5th?
Boy, they're all trying. Santi Urrutia breaks really late into turn number 5. Now up the hill out of 6. Dalton Kellett is there, though. About 2 car lengths this time out of 6. The battle for 5th, Jakes, comes to you.
Aaron Telitz has 4th already pretty solidly held, but now that battle for 5th. Urrutia with Dalton Kellett right there. Ryan Norman does not want to let those 2 out of sight. Dalton Kellett, if he's going to make the move, is going to have to try to do it in through this straightaway, trying to close in through turn number 11.
Pato O'Ward across the finish line in 1st. Franzoni is 2nd. Herta has crossed the line in 3rd. Aaron Telitz shortly going to take home the 4th position, but we're keeping our eye on that battle for 5th as Santi Urrutia trying to hold off Dalton Kellett and make their way through the carousel. Urrutia swings wide, rear of that car, steps out a bit. Kellett closes to within half a car length. That was his shot, though, through turn 17. He'll have to fall back in line. Those 3 will accelerate out of the final corner. Boy, a lot of fun watching those 5, but here comes Santi Urrutia. He'll grab 5th. Dalton Kellett comes home in 6th. Ryan Norman comes home in 7th. Alfonso Celis finishes 8th. That was a lot of fun, Rob Howden. I mean, Pato O'Ward put a beat down on the field, but those three in the back put on a pretty good show.
All in all, I think that the drivers here at Indy Lights really showed well. They were challenged with some tough conditions. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with Dalton Kellett keeping the pressure up on Santiaruti the entire time. No one drove over their head. No one made any stupid mistakes, a big dive-on move. Everybody was searching for grip, but all in all, I think a really respectable performance by everybody.
Steve Wittich from Trackside Online. How nervous do you think guys like Colton Herta and Santiaruti, who expect to be championship contenders, how nervous are they going to be for the rest of the season with the way Pato O'Ward started?
I think it's going to be interesting going to Indy and to see exactly what O'Ward has for them at the road course there, and then obviously at the Oval. It's not something he's done before, so I'm going to hazard a guess that guys like Colton and Victor and Santi are looking forward to the Freedom 100, where maybe Pato hasn't had the experience, but man, right now he is on fire. And like Rob said, he's in Pro Mazda 2 years ago. He did the exact same thing. And I mentioned that to him, and he's fully aware that things did not go well the second half of the season, and he took some of the blame for that. And I think it'll be a little bit different this time around for Pato.
Yeah, another learning experience for him in Pro Mazda. He had that big run, had a huge lead over Aaron Teelitz, but it kind of fell apart for him over the second half of the season. If he has learned from that, he's going to be tough to beat. And then we go to the IndyCar Grand Prix on the road course in Indianapolis. Remember, Andretti Autosport won there last year as well, as did Juncos Racing with Kyle Kaiser. Two teams that'll be very strong there.
Let's hear from Victor Franzoni, Dave, first. A well-earned, fantastic second-place finish.
Started second, finishes that way, season high. What did you learn out there?
It was fun, really fun. I wanted the rain. I think we would. I thought we would do a good job, and we did it. And it was nice. My first spot in the Indy Lights series. I think now we started better work than we were doing before. We're doing a good job, but we were always there 4th, 5th. Now we were 2nd. So I think we broke this step. So I think from now we'll be much better. We'll be nice, and I'm excited to see the next race.
Obviously, in a way, all came down to the start. What did you have there at the beginning?
In the start, I have too much wheel spin. It was my first time racing in the rain with some strong car. And my first lap was good, and then from my 3rd to my 6th lap was really bad. I was not adapting myself quite well to the track. But as soon as I learned the track, I could keep the same gap from Pato. But I was already too far to catch him. But yeah, it was good. The end was good. I think we did a good job, and I'm happy.
It's a learning game. You learned a lot. We'll see you at Indy in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, see you guys there. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Victor Franzoni comes home second.
Asking Victor Franzoni to maybe compete for the championship in his rookie year with this type of competition is a lot. But, Steve, I think he's already shown that he's going to be a guy that's putting together podiums all year. And it wouldn't shock me if he finds himself in victory lane very soon.
No, and it's interesting with Kyle Kaiser still with that team in Indy Lights. Kyle, I know, has been working with the Lights guys and the Pro Mazda guys. And right now, Victor's putting together a very Kyle Kaiser-like season from last year. Taking exactly what the car's giving him, learned what he needed to learn, and now he's got that second. I'm going to hazard a guess that he's going to want to take the move to the top step of the podium, and I expect it to happen.
Let's hear from our race winner, Pato O'Ward, standing by with Dave first in victory lane.
For the second time this weekend, Patricio O'Ward has brought that number 27 to victory lane here at Barber Motorsports Park. It looked easy. I'm guessing it wasn't, though.
I thought it was going to be way more slick out there, honestly. When I first went out and I started to be aggressive with the tires, I felt a lot of grip. I think the braking zones and stuff didn't really get pushed back so much. It was just barely a little. So my goal was to keep it on the black stuff, and I think I did. And I'm super, super happy for the team. They gave me an awesome car. We've been really, really fast all weekend, and I definitely wanted to get that pole because I missed it in Saturday, and I was not going to lose this one like I lost the race 2 in St. Pete.
The start is obviously important, but before you knew it, a couple laps in it, you had a 6-second gap. How do you try to conserve the car from there on out?
I wanted to get a big gap so I can have some breathing room, because you can make a mistake really easily in these kind of conditions. The tire can lock up, and then you're just going to go straight. You can't really save it. So my goal was to get a big gap in the beginning, and then whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 seconds, was to keep it. And if they would get closer to me, I'd push for one lap and then just try to keep the gap steady. And I think it was between 5.5, 6.5. I don't know how much it ended, but Victor was definitely putting some good lap times behind me. So it had me on my toes the whole race.
You led every lap here this weekend. How big is this? Is this the start of something big, you think?
I hope it's the start of something big. Just like every other driver here, I'm here to win and get wins, positions, points. At the end of the day, everybody wants to win the championship. That's my goal this year. So it's been a great start to the year, and I'm excited to see what Indy has in store. I'm really looking forward to the Freedom 100.
We'll see you in a couple weeks there.
Thank you so much.
Patricio Award, back-to-back wins here at Barber Motorsports
Talented
Park.
on the racetrack. Thank you, Dave. First, a very polished interview. Not much that you don't like about Pato Award, Steve.
No, there isn't. And you got to remember, he's only 18 years old. And he's been around a while now, and he's taken those lessons that he's learned coming up, and he definitely showed the field that this is his championship to win.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us, Steve. You and Rob did a great job up here. Really appreciated having you.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast.
And for the entire crew, great job by Jake Query and Michael Young out on the racetrack. Our on-site producer is Rick Evans, back in Indianapolis. Chris Pollock, Wally Levitz, the general manager of the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. Coming up, the Verizon IndyCar Series race. It's the Honda Grand Prix of Alabama. You don't want to miss it. Mark Janes and the entire crew will be set to call some IndyCar racing here in Bama. Congratulations. Pato Award wins here in Birmingham as he sweeps the weekend in the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires.